Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning. Stanley Cup Final starts tonight. We're going to get to that coming up later this hour. Actually, in our next segment, as Carolina and Vegas square off. NBA Finals start tomorrow night, and we will hear from Ben Anderson about that series and what he thinks of Game 7 in the San Antonio Oklahoma City series. So we'll get to all that coming up. Got a couple questions up on our Facebook page. You couldn't help but notice Chet Holmgren had a brutal Game 7. Brutal. So he was the number 2 pick, and the Utah Jazz are drafting number 2. Any worries? I got to say I have a few. I mean, I know everybody says this is a great draft, but even great drafts have busts in the top 5. And everybody's really high on the top 4 players. I'm just saying it doesn't work out. There's usually a bust in there for one reason or another. Now, we can sit here and go through a list of reasons about why it could be each player. We know the flaws. There's no slam dunk Cooper Flag number 1, Victor Wembanyama number 1. There's a bunch of really good players, but this group isn't hyped the way those 2 players in particular are. As a group, they're more hyped. But those 2 were pretty much viewed as flawless. And obviously, AJ Dybantsa, questions about his shooting. He's got to shoot the 3 better. For Peterson, it's obviously questions like, well, how often are you going to be out on the court playing and how often are you going to be sitting? What was with all those games where you cramped up? Is it really something to do with creatine? And then you just keep going down the list, right? Cam Boozer, are you athletic enough? Are you explosive enough, to finish around the rim when there's multiple 7-footers on the court who are long and athletic, and you are not 7 feet, and you are not long and athletic? You're savvy, you're skilled, you're fundamental, but is that enough? So everybody's got questions. So we'll get to that later this morning. I got to say, I just can't believe it's all going to pan out. And so it's up to the Jazz to figure it out. We can all sit here and debate Peterson back and forth. The fact is, we're not going to have all the information they have. Now, will their information add up correctly? Will they talk themselves into something that isn't there, either for better or for worse? You could overrate him and take him, and he could bust on you. You could underrate him, and you could pass him, and then he could go 3rd or 4th and have a fantastic career, and you could regret every minute you passed on him. But the fact is, they're going to talk to a lot of people we never get to. They're going to get league, they probably already have gotten, the medical results from the league that we will never see. So they're going to have more information than us. Won't stop us from speculating, but we got to know we don't know. So we'll talk about that later this morning. And then The Athletic has a spring top 25 out, for whatever that's worth. They put Indiana at number 1, Oregon number 2, Ohio State number 3, 3 Big Ten teams right at the top. Michigan was down at 17, 6th place in the Big Ten. That's not what they're paying Kyle Whittingham for. They expect more than that. Oregon, USC, and Washington were also in front of them. There were 4 Big 12 teams, starting with BYU at number 8. Tech was 14, Houston 17, and TCU 25, and then they had 5 more teams. Just missed. And in that next 5, University of Utah were in that group. So I guess somewhere between 26 and 30. So how you feeling about all that? Guess we got a mega game because they got Notre Dame 5, so assuming that Notre Dame and BYU get off to the starts we think they're going to get off to, that they should get off to looking at their schedules, it's a top 10 showdown. And maybe it's even better than that. We'll see how much they move up by then. Assuming they don't stumble along the way. So plenty of football. We can talk about that later this morning too. Plenty of stuff on the way. DJ PK, we are going to take a break right now. And coming up next, Stanley Cup Final. I talked with Jay Stevens yesterday and looked ahead to tonight's game. And Jay's thoughts coming up, and then Ben Anderson after that. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk Stanley Cup Final with Jay Stevens, NHL insider, host of the Utah Puck Report for KSL Sports. Jay, good morning.
Good morning.
Jay, I have to imagine you're about 0% surprised that Carolina is in the final. They have the best regular season record. And what percent surprised are you Vegas is there to play them, given the fact that, with 10 or 15 games to go, you weren't 100% sure Vegas was going to qualify for the postseason?
Yeah, I'm 100% surprised that it's Vegas and not Colorado. And it's just a surprising thing. And I guess I shouldn't be, because the President's Trophy winner hardly ever wins the Stanley Cup.
Right.
And I need to see how many times they actually make it to the final, but there's just something about that curse, and it turned out to be true. Colorado had a ton of injuries. and Vegas just seemed to be clicking and everybody's giving Tortorella all the credit for balancing the lines and doing all that stuff. And it's true. For sure, it's true. But the real truth, and I've told you before, we were talking about it the other day in the office, the day they hired him is also the day they got Carter Hart back from injury. And he came in and he stole the show. He was good.
Of all the things you could have, a hot goaltender.
Goaltending is, that it is the playoffs. There's the saying that goaltending 75% of the game, unless you don't have it, then it's 100%.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, and especially in the final, it's always a hot goalie. If you think back over the years with Cheevers and even back to Jaguar with the Ducks, it was Jaguar carrying that Ducks team that shouldn't have even been in the playoffs and winning Stanley Cups. And then Brodeur, maybe that team was pretty stacked and pretty defensive, but it's always been a hot goaltender. And that's the big X factor coming into this. Carter Hart's been tested. He's really good. He's proven that he's good. He's got a lot to prove. And Frederik Andersen has really not had the workload because Carolina's just so well balanced. He's getting 13 to 15 shots a game instead of the standard 25.
I am, as I learned later in life, as I learned more about multiple sports, I am stunned by the crossover in multiple sports. And watching and listening, I would flick on Stanley Cup playoff games because I'm a guy and I got a remote control and there's a game on and I'm bam, 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 right? But I'm not listening to post-game press conferences. I wasn't that into it. And now I'm trying to, and I hear these guys talking and it's like I'm listening to Pablo Mastroeni on skates. Right? The RSL's head coach, Pablo Mastroeni, is like, they always talk about low block defending. He said, why would you drop back and defend 20 yards in front of your goal where there could be a deflection, something bad could happen? Why wouldn't you defend 80 yards from your goal, 90 yards, win the ball and go score right there? Just win it and be right there ready to attack. And then I watch and it's like, I was actually listening. I was in my car and they were talking, I think it was game 4. And I was listening to the game, and there's another thing I wouldn't have done until we had an NHL team. I would not have listened to the radio, but I was just flicking around, button punching. Everybody's in a commercial break, and boom, there was the game. So I started listening, and they basically, I don't even know who it was on the radio broadcast. They're like, Carolina is squeezing life out of Montreal. Montreal has only got like one of the last 15 shots. And then there was another shot. Now they got one of the last 16 shots. They're counting down. It's like Montreal is struggling. They're getting trapped in the middle of the ice. They can't even get into the attacking zone. So as much as we talk about hot goaltending and you talk about the way Vegas defends, and we saw some of that, how much can these two teams stop each other at the red line or blue line before you even get anywhere where it's dangerous?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about both these teams are really good at matching the other team. I just listened to an interview with Carconi from the Mammoth, and he said, playing Carolina, you can't even breathe. There's no room, and it's 10 times worse during the playoffs. The way they match up, I think you would compare it to a man-on-man, but it's in the neutral zone, which is kind of unheard of. The New Jersey Devils used to run a neutral zone trap that was similar. But, yeah, they're all in, and Rod Brindamore has those guys just fired up about nobody comes into our zone. It used to be like protect the house, just like football, right? Protect the house, which is in the hash marks. But he's like, don't let them in our zone. Don't let any shots, and they did it. Montreal just set the record for the least amount of shots in a I think a conference final, and it's just that they're very well coached. They're so deep. There is not a slow player on that team. And then you flip the script and look at the other side, and lines 3 and 4 for Vegas are slow. I mean, it's Stone and Hurdle. They're amazingly talented people, but they're slow. So I just think you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff. You're going to see the shot count not be high on one side. I think it comes out to it's Carolina's series to lose. And it's just, if Carter Hart steals all the saves, if he makes all the saves, then Carolina is going to smother Vegas. But I said a lot of the same things about Colorado and Vegas. So, it just kind of, but everything I've watched and everything I know about hockey, and it just seems like Carolina is one of the most well-balanced teams I've ever seen in the NHL.
But Colorado was not healthy, and Carolina is, right?
Correct, yeah. And Carolina has barely been tested. They lost one game in the playoffs. The rest of the time they play 4 games, they get out, they don't get banged up really. And yeah, Colorado was decimated. Their top 4 guys were going down, and when you lose McKinnon to a bad shot off the ankle, I'm sure we're going to find out later that ankle was broken, and McCarr was already injured. And those are the 2 of the best players in the whole league, not just on the Colorado Avalanche, but in the entire league. So yeah, it does kind of show that Colorado is more vulnerable than Carolina is. But man, Vegas has pulled some magic during these playoffs, and you just think back, 2 overtime goals, and it could have been the Mammoth advancing, and it just seemed like Vegas got better and better.
Yeah, I guess that's where, as much as sports overlap, they don't. Because I think one of the big lessons watching the Spurs win Game 7 in Oklahoma City was that Oklahoma City at the end of the series had a couple of big injuries. Guys who might have been able to come in and give them just a little bit of boost when they had the lead in the second half, and they weren't that far away from winning, but they didn't have their second leading scorer in Jalen Williams, and they didn't have AJ Mitchell off the bench. But early in the series, when the Spurs fell behind 2-1, they didn't have Fox. And so they're playing young guys big minutes, and just a veteran to rotate through there might have helped. And they lost 2 of the first 3. So the lesson the rest of the league is make sure you're healthy. And I think there's going to be more load management in the NBA next year because nobody's going to miss that lesson. But in hockey, that's not the way they think, and that's not the way they handle it. And Colorado will be going, to the wall next season. And if guys get injured, so be it, right?
Well, yeah, and we talked about this a little bit 2 years ago when hockey first came in, and you and I were talking. I said the thing about the Florida Panthers is they play all year like it's the playoffs, and you think that it hurt them in the long run and it give them more injuries, and because they weren't doing load management and they were hitting everything that moved. It was incredible to watch them for those years. But then you saw how much that made them fall apart. But one of the coolest things about the NHL playoffs is typically you're going to get good play out of your big stars. They're going to make good plays, but it's guys you've never heard of or guys that your 3rd and 4th line guys that are just built for playoffs. There was a guy named Dustin Penner who won a cup with the Ducks, and he won a cup with the Kings. And I think he just gets picked up for 1 year, and he's just that guy. He scores 2 points all season, and then he'll have 6 in the playoffs. And Utah's Trevor Lewis was kind of the same way. He'd have 10 points in the season and 5 or 6 in just the playoffs. So yeah, there's tons of injuries, and even when there's not, you're going to see guys find a way to break through, and you're going to hear about players that you haven't heard about before.
It's funny you mentioned that. Back to the comparative sports, when Dave Checketts held a media availability after he'd been awarded RSL, but before they'd ever played a game, he said, when I was in Utah, I knew how the NBA worked because he was running the Jazz. And when he went to New York to run Madison Square Garden, the Knicks and Rangers, he says, the first thing I learned about hockey, totally different vibe. In basketball, you have to have the best player because he can be on the court for 40 of the 48 minutes, and he can take all the big shots. You better have Michael Jordan. He said, but in hockey, you got to rotate through the lines. He says, there isn't a human alive who can stay out on that ice for 3 minutes. Guys are going to be gassed. He says you need 4 lines. You need 3 pairs of defensemen. You need a hot goaltender. He says it's about the room. It's about the group. And he says you never know who the hero is going to be. And there it is right there. That never changes.
And that's where a GM, these GMs that are making these moves, and then you watch what Bill Armstrong's doing and how he's doing stuff. And then you look back to some of the moves he's pulled, and to make an offer sheet on a free agent is almost unheard of in the NHL. And Bill Armstrong did that in St. Louis, and that's what helped them. He was part of it, and they did it. Nobody had done it in years, and it was kind of almost an insult. But they're like, "Hey, this is part of the rules. We're going to do it." They picked up 2 players that people thought, "Well, yeah, those are $2 million players, whatever." And those were some of the guys scoring the biggest goals when they win their Stanley Cup. So it comes down to guys just knowing that balance and trusting people to come through at the right time and knowing every piece. And that was one of the questions I asked both Torini and Armstrong in the last interview, on the exit interviews. I said, what style of player was the Mammoth missing? Because they know. And they know there's something that they didn't have this year that they're going to want next year. And Brendan Moore and his team in Carolina, they've been figuring that out forever. And I don't know if you saw the handshake line, and Brendan Moore and Martin St. Louis from Montreal, they complimented each other, and Brendan Moore said, "I see it. You guys are just getting started, and you'll be here again for the next several years." There's just that balance, and you just got to know what it takes to get through the playoffs. And then there's always a surprise too.
So do the Mammoth need more guys who can grind? More guys who can say nobody gets in our zone? More guys who in 100%. The middle of the ice are just beasts?
We need 3 more Jack McBains, honestly. We need guys like that are just – and Lawson Krause was really good at it too. And I've talked about it before. There's a guy coming out of juniors. He's playing with Denoye right now, Gabe Smith. He's a beast. He's a bull. And Cole Baudouin is also going to be a bull. I mean, they're 20 years old now, 6'4", 225. Yeah. They're gonna be that guy. They're gonna be that grit sandpaper that you want in your lineup.
To get back to that about the final and something you said about Carolina, as good as they are in the way they've dominated, only losing once, in most sports, and I don't know why, but in a lot of sports, the West is better than the East. But in hockey, the East is better than the West. Even if Colorado had been healthy and had won and had the better record, wouldn't you have picked Carolina given the number of 100-point teams on the East side and what they had to get through in the Eastern Conference playoffs?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. When I went through and I did my bracket, I had this is what blew me away even. I had everything right until this part. This is where my bracket fell apart, was Colorado losing. I had Colorado winning just because I thought they had the depth, and they have way better goaltending. I know a lot of people were blaming Colorado's goaltending, but the two Woods, the lumber yard, they call their crease with Blackwood and Wedgwood, they had everything they needed to get through, and I think they would have matched up. It's another team that's been there. I think they're a lot like Carolina, but they had more speed, and their guys are usually able to find more open space, even with a team like Carolina playing against them. But I think that would have been one of the best series to watch if Colorado was healthy, to see them go all the way. I don't know. That would have been it would have been a 7-game series, and I would have picked Colorado to win, but it could have easily been Carolina.
Yeah. While you were talking, I did a quick search. Here's your answer on the President's Cup. 40 President Cup winners, 12 have made it to the Stanley Cup final. So if they can make it to the final, their odds of winning are pretty good. But that's 28 teams getting knocked out before the final by a conference opponent.
Yeah, and it's the curse, right? And hockey players are superstitious. They're very superstitious. And you see them, they're not touching any trophies anymore. And I'm starting to wonder, are there going to be teams, not to get into the whole Jazz, tanking thing, but are there going to be teams that maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit and not win it just because they don't want that curse? It sounds dumb, but I could see it happening just because of all the superstitions.
The combination of get your team healthy and then the superstition of the President's Cup, those two things. Except you got to get your goaltender dialed in and feeling confident. And he can't feel confident if you take your foot off the gas and you're giving up, 35, 40 shots in a game. No goalie wants to face that.
Yeah, so some goaltenders really thrive on that.
Really?
Veggie's one of them. Mike Richter from back in the day, even Henrik Lundqvist. I know you probably don't know a lot of these names, but these are guys that...
Actually, I do, because goalies are stars, and they're the celebs. Nice. They're the ones I can... Richter, that's a pretty big name.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of my favorite all-time goaltenders, and he was famous of saying, like, hey, I don't want to be in a game where I'm seeing 15, 20 shots. I want 10 shots a period because I'm in it. So, like, if it's unheard of, but if the NHL, if some NHL teams did start saying, hey, we're going to rest our players a little bit and do some load management going down the stretch and let our starting goaltender just get out there and get a real feel for, a lot of pucks. I could see that working. Yeah. I would, as a goaltender, I would have liked that going into a playoff series because that would make me feel better about my game, especially if I'm on a team that's a President's Trophy caliber team. You're not seeing that many shots. So I'd really like to get a chance to get out there and prove myself to not only to the fan base, but to myself, be like, okay, this is how it is when I'm under siege and I'm getting shell shocked. And, and then you go into playoffs with that little bit more experience.
There are nights in the winter where there are so many games, and I'm trying to track BYU, Utah, and Utah State. I'm trying to follow the Jazz and the Mammoth, plus whatever else is going on in the conference or the league, right? And you can't see every minute, every game. So I always try to make sure I check box scores and see if there's anything that's really unusual. And I thought, and obviously I know less about goaltending than a lot of people, but every time I see the Mammoth, when I start to see 30 shots plus, bad things happen. And I haven't and I should go back and add this up, right, and see if the analytics match the eye test or the totals. But I always think if you see mid-20s or something in shots, it's really hard to limit to a team to less than 20 shots. It just doesn't seem to happen very often. It does occasionally, but not very often. But like mid to high 20s, and then Veggie's only given up 1 or 2 goals, and his save percentage is over 90%, and it just looks great. But, man, you start seeing 33 shots, 35 shots, 30, like, uh-oh, bad things happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brave for the goaltender to say that, and I get why they say it, show no weakness, but really, I don't think you want that.
Well, you don't want a lot of high quality inside backdoor, wide open backdoor shots. Mm-hmm. You don't want guys standing right in front of you, tipping them. Ones that you really don't have a chance at.
Yeah.
But if it's 30 shots,
I'm
not saying they're easy shots from the outside or anything. I'm just saying realistically that you could save them, that you had a chance at. A lot of goalies are going to save that. Veggie's one of them. I think Veggie just gets overworked in general anyway. We need somebody else. He can't play 65 games. It's unfair to him. I think it's unfair to the fan base to, and he wants to. And I asked that question too at the exit interview, and he said, no, I'll play every game. And every goalie's going to say that because you don't want to give up the net.
Right.
But typically if you're seeing 35 shots, that means your team's not playing that well either, and you're giving up those high scoring opportunities.
Yeah.
So you're dead right. And the other crazy thing about the NHL this year, this is one of the first years that the average, like typically your best goaltenders on your best teams are 93, 94% save average. And this year across the board, it was 90, 91, 89. It's something was going on. Like shooters have figured it out. I'm in a bunch of goalie groups on Facebook and stuff, and they're tearing down every part of goaltending again since Jonathan Quick kind of revitalized it, after Jaguar revitalized it, after Belfour revitalized it. So I think you're going to see a new style of goaltending coming in starting next year.
Well, be like the NHL needs to be like the NFL. Scoring sells. So change the rules, and let's face it, pads are a science, right? How much of the goal can you block without even moving? All they got to do is change the rules and change the clothing, change the pads.
7 years ago, they made the pads smaller. Mm-hmm. They changed what we could wear on our chest. They changed what we could wear on our legs. They took 1.5 inches off the width of the leg pads, and then they capped them. Even a guy like you've got one of the goaltenders coming up right now, Michael Robel for the Mammoth. He's 6'7", and he has to wear the same size pads as somebody that's 6'3", 6'4". So they capped the height. That used to be like, oh, if you're 6'4", you can have bigger pads or whatever. Or Jaguar wore pads that went up to his belly button. Yeah, you're right. So they keep changing it, and they did start threatening to make the net wider, which would blow everybody. Like that would just
blow everybody's minds, right?
Yeah.
But people want to see 4-3, not 2-1. I mean, we've all been in the arena. It erupts, right? That's what people want to see. It erupts.
Yeah, 100%. They should be erupting for those big, not the big glove saves, but the big leg pad saves that nobody realizes how important those were.
So you've got Carolina. It's Carolina's to win then, right?
Yeah, I got Carolina in 6 just because I think Carter Hart's going to steal a couple.
Okay. All right, there it is. Hey, Jay, thank you very much. And people can follow you on YouTube, KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app. You're everywhere, right?
I'm everywhere. Everywhere KSL is, that's where I'm at.
There is Jay Stevens. When we come back, Ben Anderson from the 2 o'clock show. He and Jake are on 2 to 6, except Jake's on vacation this week. We'll talk with Ben. He covers the Utah Jazz, get his thoughts on the NBA Finals. A reminder, the KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to Jake and Ben for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Ben's coming up next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Joined now by Ben Anderson. You're going to hear Ben. 2 o'clock today with Jake and Ben, right here on the Zone. How are you, big guy? What's going on, Ben?
Jake this week. Jake's out. I'm rolling solo just like you.
Ha. Well, PK's back tomorrow. I'm going to do a couple days. So long weekend. Yeah. PK had to do a couple weddings, actually. One of them was out of town.
His own or somebody else's?
Ha 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 ha. Somebody else's. All right, Ben. Game 7 in the books. I believe there's about 4 lessons the NBA is going to take from this series in Game 7, and I believe it's going to reinforce everything we complain about in the NBA. But before we get to that, enjoyability factor, I thought that was about a 10. Super impressed by the way the Spurs young guys came through. Castle wobbled a little late. He was really good limiting the turnovers for most of the game, and then stacked a few of them up there late in the game and ended up finishing with 6. Thought he was going to finish with 2 there the way he was going, but then he started coughing it up. But I did think that Castle was good, Harper was good, Wembayama was good, but I can't buy that they are here forever because I was just getting told that about the Thunder a year ago.
Yeah, nobody's here forever anymore. That's what the NBA is teaching us, that, we thought Milwaukee might be a dynasty and Denver might be a dynasty and Boston might be a dynasty. It's just not what the NBA is about anymore. And that's very much by design. The financial rules say that that's what they're trying to accomplish. And you hit your tax aprons so quickly now that you start having to replace some of your key role players, which is exactly what Oklahoma City is going to have to do this offseason. And when you bet on hitting on draft picks over and over and over, historically, that never works. If every team hit on their draft picks, everyone would be really good. But most teams aren't very good, even when they have really good draft picks. So Oklahoma City trying to do it with, the 13th pick and then the 16th pick or the 20th pick. You might find an AJ Mitchell every once in a while, and that's great, but you're going to run out of luck eventually. And then you're, a 3-man team. And I think right now the league is really favoring depth.
So that was one of the lessons, I think, is that as much as we all hate load management, of all the things people complain about, my number one gripe is I go to the game and I know I'm not going to see 2, 3, or 4 of the 10 guys who should be starting. There's just so many guys missing all the time, and it bugs me. But I get why they game manage. I was texting with a friend at halftime and said, whoever loses this series is going to say we could have won it if we were healthy. The Spurs had injuries early in the series, lost 2 of the first 3. The Thunder had injuries late in the series. They lost 3 of the last 4. So load manage your guys. Keep them rested. Keep them healthy. There's so many soft tissue injuries, so many hamstrings and calves. I just feel like this series reinforced you better limit what your guys do in a regular season and keep them healthy for the playoffs. Any disagreement there?
No, and that's the other part of the dynasty thing that I think is just not going to work, is that you're going to run into injuries. There's just guys are getting hurt more often, it seems like, especially the top players who are playing a lot. And I don't know if it's because of a lack of load management, too much load management, too much practice, too little practice. I really don't know. I don't know if the game is too physical or too athletic. But, these super outlier bodies like Wemby have never lasted very long. So it's probably good that the Spurs are trying to strike now. And we'll see. Yeah, Steph Castle plays a very aggressive style of game, not unlike what Jalen Williams does. And Jalen Williams was hardly available in this series.
To just stay with the injury theme, we're seeing this across all the sports. Pitchers are just, the Cubs have like 10 pitchers on the list at any given time. It's unbelievable how many injuries they've had. The New York Giants just lost a wide receiver, Gunnar Olszewski, feared torn Achilles, which would be their 3rd Achilles injury of the offseason. So either all of this push, science, human performance, maximizing it, maybe somehow they've got guys training the wrong way, or so much is being asked to compete at the highest level, bodies just break down and there's nothing anyone can do about it. It's that hard to compete at the highest level. I don't know what it is, but injuries are just wreaking havoc on rosters in every sport.
And we've also talked to doctors, I know you have as well, and it's speculative at this point, but kids are, specializing in one sport earlier in their life and, putting maybe more in wear and tear on their body in specific ways, or not strengthening their body overall the way you used to when you would play baseball through high school and football and basketball or whatever your other sport was. Now you start specializing in the 7th grade, and what if that has something to do with it? That's not something you can fix with load management midway through the year. So we don't know exactly what's going on. Clearly, if we did, people would stop it. But that's something where you have to be really lucky. And what's worth recognizing is last year the Thunder were extremely lucky. They were very healthy all year, and they won a title. In Boston, when they won their title, they were very healthy. It's the only year Kristaps has really been healthy his entire year. So that's going to be a part of it. You got to be deep. You got to be healthy. And if you do have a couple of injuries here and there, they can't be significant, and you better have somebody ready to step up and replace them.
Really impressed by the way the Spurs shot the 3-pointers. They had multiple guys making multiple big threes. They won that game because of the three-point shot. And for all the people who scream, there's too many threes in the game, and for the people who scream, man, when you miss threes, you got to stop taking them. The Spurs took 5 more threes. They made 5 more threes. The Thunder made more two-pointers, made more one-pointers. They shot more free throws. They made more free throws. But they didn't win the game. The team that made the most threes won the game. So if you think you're going to see any shortage of threes going forward, good luck with that.
And that also might be the reason why we're about to have our 8th champion in 8 years. There is just a higher variance in three-point shooting, and that's the truth. And OKC was good last year, and Boston was elite the year that they shot it very well. And, they didn't shoot it as well this season, certainly not in the playoffs. So you have a bad series, you can be the favorite and you can lose to Philly like Boston did. So obviously that's going to be a huge storyline going forward. And it also reinforces that you better have three-point shooters. And I think, if you want to look at a Utah Jazz conversation or what the Angels have done historically, they've really favored shooting in the draft. They've liked to go out and get guys who shoot, which becomes a pretty interesting wrinkle in what the Jazz are about to do 3 weeks from tomorrow. Look at the shooters and who's available at the top of the draft and who the Jazz might like.
Looking forward, Knicks, Spurs. There's an old cliche in the NBA, if you have the best player, you win. Looking at you, Victor Wembanyama. But there's another cliche out there. Hey, young teams just don't win. Have the Spurs cleared that young team thing in your mind by beating the Thunder, or they still got to do it? Castle still might have too many turnovers.
Yeah, I've still got to see it, and it doesn't mean that they're probably not the favorite, and I know they are the betting favorite, but, I just kind of emotional favorite going into this. They should be, but they did just play a very brutal 7 games, and as we just talking about, wear and tear really matters, and the Knicks have coasted mostly through the playoffs. They should be fresh. Seems like they're relatively healthy. De'Aaron Fox is clearly playing on a pretty gimpy leg, though he played much better in Game 7 than he had the rest of the series, but you lose a major piece or he's in and out of the lineup and inconsistent. If you get another rolled ankle somewhere else, the Knicks really have a depth advantage. That's where the Knicks have done a great job. They do have star players. I mean, Jalen Brunson's a star, Cat's an offensive star, and then they've got great role players. And then they've got good players coming off the bench, and they can throw a lot of defense at you. This is a different animal than what they just saw in Oklahoma City. And I get that they may not have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but Jalen Brunson's pretty darn good, and they're going to be coming at you in waves, and that's not something the Thunder could do. The Thunder, as good as they are, had players just simply disappear, like Chet. I mean, he just no-showed the entire series. It was bizarre. And that's not really how the Knicks have performed at all in the playoffs. So this is the next step up. This is not an easier series than the last series they just had.
So you've partly answered the next question because you're Ben Anderson. You can anticipate these things. There's no off position on the genius switch, Ben. Good work. But the Knicks, 11 straight wins, 9 of them by double digits. Some of them not just blowouts, but spectacular. You start winning by 35 and 40 points. That's unreal. Are they that good, or was the East that bad?
A little bit of both. I mean, the East was clearly bad, but not as bad as, allowing another team to win 11 straight games with an average, margin of what you just said, double digits. No teams are that bad. Cleveland's fine. That's not a great team. I'm not a huge believer in it, but they've got a bunch of really good players. And Philly did just beat Boston and did have Joel Embiid some of the series. So it's a mixture of both, but the Knicks are prepared. And look, everyone elevates their game. Nobody flukes their way into the finals. You have to be good and you have to get better. And by the way, the Knicks were good last year. The Knicks beat the Celtics coming off of a championship. And then they gave a very good series against Indiana. And had it not been for some Tyrese Halliburton, heroics, and credit the Pacers, they did make the shots. This might be the second consecutive finals for the Knicks. So they're a very good team. They're a consistent team. They have been not here before in the finals, but they've made deep playoff runs together. And that might be the advantage, just the understanding that, this is a marathon and it's not a sprint, and they're going to be able to, be prepared for this emotionally. Certainly, they've had enough players that have played big games in their careers.
The Knicks famously changed coaches last year after going to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Vegas Golden Knights changed coaches with 8 games left in the regular season. Now they're in the Stanley Cup Final. Indiana brought in some old coach nobody'd ever heard of from James Madison, a school nobody ever watches. Went to the playoffs the first year, went 16-0, won the national title the second year. Have these 3 moves just turned up the heat on coaches everywhere? Win now? Who needs a long time? None of these guys need a long time. The coach is the problem, and the coach is the fix.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot of long time in sports anymore. I mean, college football, you've got a new roster every year. So, yeah, you better win because they'll just go out and buy new players and buy a new coach. Basketball, maybe not quite as much, but yeah, I mean, what's his name? Mitch Johnson now with the Spurs. This is, he's relatively new. This is his first playoff run, and he's coaching excellently. And Mike Brown has been here before. He's had some consistency. So yeah, I do think there is some pressure certainly to win always as a coach, especially when you have high priced rosters and the clock is ticking on every roster in the NBA, because as we were just mentioning, the apron situation makes it really hard to keep a team together for very long. So if you're not reaching your potential, you probably have a really short leash. And especially when you're a team like the Knicks, who James Dolan said were expected to make the finals, if not win the championship, that's a high bar. And Tibbs had not shown an ability to do it.
Yeah. One more series, 2 more weeks, 4 to 7 games, and then it'll be all draft all the time. You think you know how the draft is going to go right now, or you still think there's going to be some wrinkles here?
I think we've reached the kind of nonsensical part of the draft where everyone's just throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And look, every team does their due diligence, and I'm sure teams start to waffle at this point. But generally, you zoom back far enough, and there's not that many surprises. There will be a surprise in the top 5. There will be a couple of surprises in the top 10. But if I had to guess, I think AJ is going to go number 1. I think Darren Peterson's probably going to go number 2. I think Cam Boozer's probably going to go 3, and Caleb Wilson's going to go 4. And I think that was what most people expected before the draft, regardless of who was going to end up in those top 4 spots. There's not really a lot of situations where I don't think those would have been the top 4 guys. And then particularly in that order. And then the bizarre aspect of it is just, I hate the word fit in the draft at the top of the draft. You shouldn't care about fit, but teams do seemingly every year. These guys all fit those positions very well. The Wizards really need a wing, and AJ's sitting right there. The Jazz could use another ball handler and shooter, and Darren's right there. Memphis loves high analytics guys like Cam Boozer and could use another big to play next to Zach Edey, and he's going to be sitting right there. And then the Bulls love long athletic players, and it's Caleb Wilson. It's almost boring in how perfect all these guys seem to fit the understanding of what these front offices prefer. And I mentioned it earlier, David, like the Angels like shooting. Well, Darren Peterson's a potentially generational shooter. I mean, that's his skill set. I know a lot of people are trying to is he Anthony Edwards? Is he this super freak athlete? Don't get me wrong, Ant really shot the ball, especially last year, very well. But that's what Darren Peterson does. He's going to come in and really shoot the ball, and then that's going to be his real strength, and then he'll fill out the rest of his game. The Angels have historically loved that. That's how the Celtics won their title, and I think you're going to see the Jazz certainly look very closely at him. Yeah, think about shooting. That's what they give you points for, Ben. All the other stuff is great, but you know what they give you points for? Biscuit in the basket. I once heard an interview with Frank Layden, and he was talking to a radio host, and they said, "What's the most important thing on a basketball court?" And the guy said, "Getting your defense to move is one." And Frank said, "No, you've got to score." Yeah, that's why it's called the goal, the field goal. You've got to get the ball in the basket. That's the only thing that matters. I want rebounding, and I want defending, but you better be able to score it. Or it's all you could rebound every shot, but if you finish with 0 points, you're not winning. Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. Has anybody got a good feel for what's going to happen in free agency trades in the summer, or is that just too far away and everybody's got to see the draft work out first? I think you're probably going to see the league held hostage a little bit by Giannis. That generally is what happens. A couple of teams will be lined up and not willing to make major moves. So that's Golden State. That's probably Orlando. I still, I know the report came out yesterday that Oklahoma City's probably not going to go after Giannis, but step back for a week, zoom out and start to wonder hey, is this championship window going to last very long? Giannis would certainly help it. So I think teams will wait for that. But I am curious, David, with the new draft rules and how hard it is to know what's going to be coming up for you via the lottery anymore. I wonder if we see more actual draft night trades, big trades on draft night, because that is, you know who's on the board, you know what the pick is. It's not just guessing, could this be 1 through 16? That becomes really difficult. There's not a lot of value in that. But once you actually get to draft night or post lottery, I wonder if we start to see a few more trades go down that are kind of blockbuster trades, when generally those would happen, a little bit earlier into July versus late June. So if that were to happen, say, let's combine your last 2 answers here. If that were to happen with Giannis on draft night, it doesn't make any sense to me that Giannis, the Wizards, would make a deal. They're too far away. It doesn't make any sense that Memphis or Chicago would make a deal. There's only one team in the top 4 that looks like they could be a playoff team and win a playoff series next year. It'd be Utah. I think if you're the Jazz now, kind of, weirdly, it's such a bizarre spot to be in. I think the number 2 pick is too rich for Giannis, which is really crazy to say. I mean, Giannis 24 months ago was one of the 3 best players in the NBA. And truthfully, I think he probably is still top 3 or 4. But he is a little bit oft injured, and, you're trying to manage that. And as we were just talking about, the injuries are the quickest way to kill your playoff hopes. But if you think you could get Giannis for 50 games during the regular season and then get him healthy in the postseason, he's worth whatever you could throw at him, to be honest with you. But the question comes, I do think the Jazz want to see this roster together for a few years, at least a season this year. But if the Jazz decided next year they wanted to chase Giannis and Giannis was still in Milwaukee, or 6 months into this season, the Jazz decide they get to the trade deadline and want to test it out, they've got some big pieces they could move, and they've still got some future draft capital. Like, I do think there's a world where if the Jazz decided that was the direction they had to go, you could probably get there without including this number 2 overall pick. And then again, you're stacked. You're talking about building the most talented roster the team's ever had. And I'm not sure they don't already have that or aren't building towards that already.
I'm against the Giannis trade. And the reason isn't Giannis. The reason, not that I'm not a little worried about his injuries, because I am, but the biggest reason to me is his salary. The last 3 teams standing, which all have a chance to win the title no matter what you think of them, they all had a chance. And the Thunder not anymore, but they did. There was only one player on those 3 rosters who made more than $40 million. It's Karl Anthony Towns at 53. Now, there's a lot of guys right up against it between 35 and 40 million. But you look at the teams that put a lot of money into a couple positions, they don't have the depth to build out the team. They're missing pieces. They're too vulnerable to injury. They don't have depth, and they just haven't gotten there. And I've seen the same thing in the NFL. Like, the top 10 paid quarterbacks are all over 50 million, and only 5 of them made the playoffs. You can't put a team around them. The guys who are winning Super Bowls are getting paid $34 and $40 million. Now in LA, they're finally paying Stafford, and his salary is going to go up over 50. It'll be interesting to see if they're still an elite team. When they won the Super Bowl, he was down around 40, and I think Seattle was paying their guy like $33 million. How did he do it? Well, they had more money to put a team around him. So Sam Darnold didn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He just had to be a B-plus quarterback. He had to be above average on the borderline of being very good, and that was enough because they had more money. And so I just don't think bringing in someone and paying him $50 or $60 million, they're paying 2 $50 million guys. I think that's a problem for the Jazz right now with marketing into Jackson. But that's the only reason they got Jackson. That's the only reason Memphis was willing to trade him.
And, you look at last year's Oklahoma City Thunder, who wins the title, and they have 2 players still on their rookie contracts, and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. And you look at the Spurs, they've got 2 players still on their, 3 players still on their rookie contracts, including Wemby, Castle, and Dylan Harper. So what I do wonder is how teams are going to treat the top of the draft. Does somebody value Cam Boozer more because he's going to be good from day one over, and AJ Dybantsa, who's going to take a couple of years, or a Darren Peterson, who's going to take a couple of years, especially a team like the Jazz, who are relatively close. They're certainly way closer than Washington or Chicago or Memphis. So would the Jazz value some readiness and an ability to get 4 years out of a player at a really low contract comparative to, other starting level, high level playoff contributors? Cam Boozer at $13, $14, $15 million. If he's one of your 3 or 4 best players, which now is what Steph Castle is and Dylan Harper is and obviously Wemby is, that really gives you a lot of flexibility around the fringes to make moves and improve your roster and maybe even overpay in a spot. De'Aaron Fox is clearly overpaid for what he contributes, but you can afford to have him and he's a nice luxury at this point. If you can overpay for somebody because you have another contributor on a really low contract, that's super valuable in today's NBA. And would you draft accordingly? Or could that be the deciding factor? Sometimes we say we'll fit at the top of the draft if we think 2 players are in the same tier, should be the deciding factor. What if the ability to contribute right away is that? We see that a lot more in the MLB draft, where a guy who's 1 or 2 years away might be favored for a team that's pretty close versus the high school prospect. Do we start to look at the NBA draft a little bit more similarly?
I think the MVP in the league this year should have been Jalen Brunson. He took $35 million. He could have leveraged his way to more. He knows how to do it. He chose not to. His agent I don't know if he liked the plan, but he went along with the plan. And what a break for the Knicks that they have Brunson on $35 million instead of paying him an extra $10 or $15 million more than that. Major break for the Knicks.
Helps when your dad's a coach on the team, and I think your agent used to work for the GM. So yeah, it's kind of nice when those things work out for you. But hey, that's you got to find any advantage you can. And the Knicks got fined for tampering. They lost the 2nd round pick, and it seems like that was probably a pretty good trade for them.
And if they were paying Brunson $50 million, that'd be 15 more than he's getting right now. Would they be able to afford Bridges or Hart? And pretty easy to assume that one of those guys wouldn't be there, and then how different are things?
Well, if those guys win a title, it's because, Hart has a huge series or Bridges has a huge series, and they shut down a Harper or they shut down a Castle. I mean, that's what it takes. It takes Julian Champagnie he's got to be on a minimum contract. I don't know how much Julian Champagnie makes, but it can't be very much. He hit 6 threes in Game 7. I mean, you have to have those stars step up. That's just part of the game. Steve Kerr has to hit a big shot against the Utah Jazz. It's just your role players have to step up huge, and that's where you got to be able to maybe pay a little bit extra here or there to have them step up and be ready in a series like this.
All right, there's Ben Anderson. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
A lot of guys in those practice squads, they don't want to be elevated to the roster. They're very happy living this life where they could tell their family and friends, which I have no problem with that. Like, there's no problem. Like, you would just assume, though, that if you're on the practice squad, you'd want to be at the top. But the reality is a lot of guys don't want the pressure of being on top.
There's Tom Brady, his theory on practice squad guys. Some people around the league pushing back on that, but hey, Brady's got his opinions. Wonder which practice squad guys disappointed him when he thought he had something. Patriots think they have something.
I couldn't disagree with him more.
You think those guys want it bad? Just looking for a chance?
I think everybody wants money.
Patriots get AJ Brown. Long rumored trade is done. The Eagles ship Brown there in exchange for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. So AJ Brown on the move again. And the Rams with the other blockbuster deal of the day. They get Myles Garrett from Cleveland for defensive end Jared Verse and 3 future NFL draft picks, a first-round pick in 2027, second-round picks in 28, and a third-round pick in 2029.
So it was past NFL draft picks for future NFL draft picks.
Yes. Myles Garrett is a past NFL draft pick, yes.
Right.
Very well done. You want to make the Rams the favorite in the NFC?
Sure. As good as anybody else.
Yeah.
For what that matters.
Close to getting Seattle last year, upgrading a defense that was a little dicey. Longtime NFL quarterback Russell Wilson headed to TV. He's going to call it a day. The playing career is over. He'll become a studio analyst for CBS Sports on their Sunday pregame show.
I think he's going to call it a game.
And he will replace Matt Ryan, who went off to run the Atlanta Falcons. Larry Fitzgerald Sr., longtime Minnesota sports writer, has passed away at the age of 71. Hall of Fame, he's the father of Hall of Fame wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald Jr. The Giants signed Odell Beckham Jr. Should have mentioned that when they made that AJ trade. They actually went out and got 3 wide receivers there trying to. Juju Smith-Schuster has now landed in New York along with Braxton Berrios.
Go Giants, man. I am pulling hard for them this year.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Brendan Sorsby's hearing regarding his requested injunction to play this season lasted 2 hours yesterday. The judge presiding over the proceedings is expected to rule within a week on the matter. So we'll see if Sorsby has a path back to college football and Texas Tech in the next week. Mike Leach on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot for the first time this week after the rules for eligibility were tweaked this past year, allowing him to make it without a 60% win percentage.
And I'm fine with that. Just tweak it for everybody then.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
You've talked about going to Atlanta and the Battery, and they built this whole real estate development around the stadium.
Awesome.
And the Braves control it all, and so they control more of that game day money. People looking for, entertainment, food, whatever. Well, the Dallas Mavericks Reportedly, that is their plan. They've seen what the Braves are doing, and so they are moving away from American Airlines Arena in downtown Dallas, former mall about 10 miles north, 104-acre site. They're going to buy it, redevelop the whole thing. Hotels, entertainment, food, all around the arena. And they've got 5 years left downtown, so they got 5 years to develop this site.
Yeah. It's not as conducive. Dallas doesn't get the winter that some other places have. But you know what allows it in Atlanta, obviously, is the summer.
Summer.
And Dallas can be mild.
Yeah.
I've been there in snowstorms, and I've been there when it's 65, 70 in the winter. Got stuck in Dallas one New Year's Eve, 13 hours. That was a lot of fun.
Well, Dallas is a mega airport. I think I only got like half of that, so you had twice the fun. But yeah, that
New
was
Year's
a long time.
Eve.
Yeah, no, I think mine was spring or summer.
Got there and got home at 4 in the morning.
Oof.
And that was only because there was a few of us left that were flying to Salt Lake, and the plane was going to Vegas. So they said, what the heck, we'll stop at Salt Lake too.
Threw in a stop for you.
Yeah. So, I think that's, if you have the money and the land and so forth, it's a way to do it. But I think it's more conducive for baseball.
Well, I think their plan, hockey, I guess, is going to do its own thing. The Stars are looking at a new arena, but their own new arena. And these arenas tend to turn in, as we saw when we were in them, when we were in the Delta Center doing radio for years. There are all sorts of events that go through there. They use them year-round. So you're right. A Mavericks game in December, January might not end up being the ideal situation, but with concerts and shows and conventions and whatever else they can book in there, they'll use it year-round.
Yeah, but you can do that anywhere. You can go out in the middle of the desert and do that. Yeah.
Well,
about the complex and getting the people to hang out there.
Apparently, a big part of it is, can they get Texas to legalize gambling? Because obviously the Adelson family that bought it from Cuban wants to do casinos. So we'll see where that goes.
Obviously, I had no idea. Who owns them?
The Adelson family.
Yeah, I'll be doggone.
Co-founder of Aspiration, the bankrupt company at the center of an NBA investigation into the LA Clippers, was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud. Will anything that came up in that court case lead to any penalties against the Clippers? They're going to end up getting stripped of draft picks, or how will they be penalized, if they will be penalized?
You let me know.
Longtime NBA coach Rick Adelman passes away at the age of 79, a member of the first New Orleans Jazz team in 1974-75. He played in the league for about 6 years, then went on to coach several clubs, including taking the Blazers to a pair of NBA Finals.
He's a Lion, Loyola Marymount.
LMU.
Westchester, over there by the LA airport. Was a true pro. Interviewed him many times. Always had time. Never copped an attitude. He reminds me of Jerry Sloan in that way.
Same generation.
You need to meet me before the game because there's 90 minutes of media time available every time in this arena. And I actually had interviewed him down in L.A. plenty of times too, and then came here. And just delightful. Just a coach who was interested in basketball, coaching his basketball team. No drama, no nonsense. I always respected him for that, man. And obviously, when people are easy to deal with from the media perspective, I'm going to have a softer heart towards them. An outstanding NBA career that extended from playing into coaching.
His son David, now the head coach of the Denver Nuggets.
And I wonder what team David's son is going to coach in about 20 years.
Stick around if you're not dead yet. Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry's hunt for a new sneaker provider has ended. He signed a 10-year deal with the Chinese sportswear company Li Ning, and he will have a full line of gear coming along with also have the opportunity to sign fellow athletes under the Curry brand banner. So
just fellow athletes, not females?
Actually, I think yes, but fellow as in also athletes, not as opposed to gender. Yes, you'll have a chance to sign women's basketball stars as well as men's basketball.
Well, I was
stars.
worried about this for Curry, and I'm glad that.
Yeah, it's got something to do with time, and B, a chance to still have a job and make some money because you're worried about him financially.
I'm just worried about him.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Fastball hit high in the air, deep left field. J.J. Blades to the track. He looks up. It's gone. A grand slam for Lane Thomas. A big first inning swing when the Royals have needed it the most. And there's a swing and a drive out to left field. A tee shot for Marte. It's 4-1 Diamondbacks. Swung on, broken bat, looper left field. It's a base hit. Randy scores. The Mariners have done it again. The magic dust has been sprinkled here at T-Mobile Park.
Mariners beat the Mets 3-2. Seattle now 3 games over 500 with the extra inning win. They win in the 10th. That is 7 straight. They got the top spot in the AL West. Only team with a winning record in the division. So, Seattle making it happen. Also in there, you heard the Diamondbacks making it happen. They beat the Dodgers 4-1, hit 3 homers in the game. Shohei Ohtani is starting to hit. He had 3 hits in the game and 10 in his last 5, but it's not enough. The Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers. Jacob deGrom tallies win number 100 in his MLB career, 37 years old. 300 wins seems like a reach these days, PK. What's the new magic number? 200, 150, 1? Or do we just not care anymore?
As far as what?
300 wins used to be special. And they don't let pitchers pitch as many innings. It's hard to get the win. Can't control it.
Well, I mean, you can argue that they have a better chance than ever now that they don't have to be pinch hit for in the National League.
Texas beats St. Louis 2-1 as deGrom picks up win number 100. Boston Red Sox legend David Ortiz says team owner John Henry is concerned about the direction of his last place team. Ortiz says he's worried. We had a conversation. I've known John a long time. The whole group, they're working on figuring things out to get this ride better. Sitting in last place in the AL East. Salt Lake Bees open a 6-game series against the Albuquerque Isotopes tonight at the ballpark at America First Square. First pitch set for 6:35, and coverage begins at 6:20 on 1280 The Zone. See the College Softball World Series, Texas Tech winning twice. It's a rematch. Texas and Tech again. Maybe the $1 million pitcher will pay off.
That's so last year.
I know, but they're back in the title series.
Right, but she got another $1 million to stay.
I was going to say, she's got
a $2 million pitcher.
And they have another pitcher who's been her complement all season.
And they got Jason Williams' daughter.
Mia.
And she keeps getting hit and hits and gets hit and then hits again.
And gets hit again.
I was watching yesterday. It sucked me in. Oklahoma and Georgia Tech flicking around 4 o'clock. And Oklahoma's losing 7-3.
This is in the baseball regional you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you handle the women, I'll handle the men.
Okay, well, you didn't say that, and I don't know if people were following that. But,
well, then it had to have been. If it was if it's Texas Tech versus Texas in the final, then if I said Oklahoma and Georgia Tech, and I have belief in the intelligence of our listeners. Mm-hmm. There is no way in hell that could have been softball because thanks for interrupting me. Yeah, gosh, I wish you would go away so I won't be interrupted. I mean, my goodness, that didn't make any sense. You said Texas and Texas Tech in the final. I bring up Oklahoma and Georgia Tech, and you tell me that our listeners did not know? I forgive you. Thank you.
I feel better now.
Because you made a hell of a sense.
A hell of a sense. I wish I'd been in that car. That would have been fun.
And so Oklahoma comes roaring back, ties it now. It's in Georgia Tech, but you know how sometimes because they go in the site.
Even though it's your stadium, you might not be the home team. Right. It gets confusing,
and so Oklahoma
but it's true.
Was the home team. They got a walk and a stolen base and a single, tied it up in the 9th, 7-7. And then in the bottom of the 10th, a kid comes up, Taki, and his mother's got a baseball cap that says Taki on it, right? Mm-hmm. And she's just nervous as can be. And they can spend a lot of time of her on the camera, actually. And so he leads off the inning, boom, over the batter's eye, which is about half the size of the Green Monster. He hits it over dead center.
Dead center. It's got to be 30 feet in the air going over that
just
thing.
Just a blast. And he's a big, chunky kid, right? And they show the mother, and she just is sobbing. And then they show probably 3 or 4 Georgia Tech players who are sobbing also on the field. So that is about as dramatic as you can get. And of course, that is when they play Monday, that's always unless there's weather.
But it's usually a winner take all.
Yeah.
They both got a loss, and so they're both feeling it.
Extremely dramatic.
Oklahoma goes on to play Kansas.
They do.
Oh, the old Big 12 rivals will square off.
They set that up right afterward, within minutes of that they will go over there and play. And Kansas had a good team and won the Big 12 this year, so away they go.
Kansas and West Virginia are the last 2 Big 12 teams left. 7 SEC schools in the 16 teams going to the Super Regionals. So put Oklahoma on that list. All right, DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
Stanley Cup Final starts tonight. Game 1. Vegas and Carolina in Raleigh, North Carolina. Puck drops at 6 o'clock tonight on ABC.
Yeah, I'm going for Carolina all the way. Sorry, Vegas. Because as you know, my pronouns are he, Hurricanes.
I didn't look at Yaku. You get any feedback from Yaku? Okay. All right, there you go. Oh, he is. He's chuckling.
How did I guess something like this was going to come up today with you back?
Manny Malhotra is the Vancouver Canucks' new head coach. Played for the club and spent the last 2 years as head coach of their AHL affiliate. So he will also, his son is considered a top 5 pick in this year's NHL draft. Vancouver trying to rebuild, coming off a terrible year. What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, will be here at 8 o'clock. We will talk NBA Finals with him. And Steven Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, is here for the Spring Football Tour at 9 o'clock. Question of the day is next. Stay with us.
They've been doing it for a while.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
He covers the NHL for Sportsnet. He is Luke Fox.
Now Austin Matthews is obviously very much in the news, and you've seen the Mammoth's name tied pretty closely to Matthews if he were to hit the trademark.
Utah's interest in Austin Matthews is 100% accurate. They would have to join a few other teams that would probably be raising their hand. If he does say, hey, I want out, for sure the Mammoth would be all over that. The Sharks would be over that. The Kings. There would be a number of teams that would want a player like him because they just don't become available very often, especially when they're in their prime. A couple years back, he scored 69 goals, threatened 70, which hasn't been done since the 90s. So a player like that may or may not become available, absolutely, the Mammoth are all over that. They want a superstar.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. This week you can win tickets to see Brid Floyd at the Maverick Center, Saturday, June 6th. Great seats still available at Ticketmaster.com. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. Question of the morning. Chet Holmgren was the number 2 pick. Western Conference Finals, Chet Holmgren, not good. Stunk it up. Just saying. Any concern the number 2 pick in this month's draft might not be good?
I think you have to be.
Yes. Before Game 7, I think you had to be. That just reinforced that number 2 picks in NBA history are all over the place.
Holmgren sucked. He was timid, weak. Took a huge hit to his rep.
Averaged 8 points and 8 boards, and there are 4 losses in that series. And the worst game was Game 7.
He didn't even want to shoot.
Nope.
Yeah, actually, number 2 picks.
Not as an illustrious a list as you'd like to think, huh?
Dylan Harper's okay. Looks like he's going to be a player.
Mm-hmm.
Sarr, we're going from most recent to...
Going back in time.
Yeah. Sarr's is still debatable. I think he was like 16-5, didn't play a whole lot of games, under 50. Brandon Miller, again, kid. Chet Holmgren. Jalen Green's already been traded. James Wiseman has been out of the league. Ja Morant is a knucklehead. I don't know how else to say it. The Jazz had to take it on the chin with his father, and that story never got its true origins, and painted us as a bunch of racists. Marvin Bagley, No. Lonzo Ball? No. Brandon Ingram, already been traded. D'Angelo Russell, traded many times. Jabari Parker? No. Out of the league. Oladipo? Okay. Injured. Michael Kidd Gilchrist? No. Derek Williams? No. Evan Turner? Okay.
We're back to 2010 now and still looking for the dominant player.
I'll give you one here. Hasheem Thabeet, not it. He does not have the Thabeet. Michael Beasley, no. Kevin Durant, yes. LaMarcus Aldridge, yeah, I'd say okay. Marvin Williams, no. Emeka Okafor, no. Darko Milicic, no. Jay Williams, no. Now we're back to
2001 Tyson Chandler.
A good defensive player, but one-dimensional.
So the last 25 years, if you're looking for the guy to hang your hat on, to lead the team to a championship, well, the guy with rings is Durant, and he won them with Steph Curry, who won before and after him.
Yeah, Durant got the MVPs, though.
He did. And LaMarcus Aldridge.
I would take a Kevin Durant caliber player.
And LaMarcus Aldridge was a really good pro.
Player. But other than that, not a whole lot.
No, and there's there's multiple injured guys in there and multiple outright busts.
Well, what's the difference? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter why. It's not, for one reason or another, he's not leading you to the title.
Right.
It may be injuries, so maybe that's a little more understandable on why you missed. But the fact is you missed if you missed, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think that Portland is getting any slack because they took Greg Oden, right?
No.
I mean, and he was injured.
Oden went number 1, yeah.
Right, but I'm saying
it
was
and they took Sam
injury-related.
Sam Bowie, too, and right.
And both those guys, you can argue, we'll never know, but they were injured. And at this level, either produce or you don't. There's really no gray area.
Right. And Holmgren produced for 2 rounds, but when they ran into the Spurs, the production plummeted.
He wilted. He looked scared.
Intimidated. Go attack the hoop. If he blocks it, he blocks it. You might get the foul call. You might beat him to the hoop and dunk it.
You simply never know.
You gotta go for it. And the 4 boards, I mean, there are like 10 guys in the game who had more rebounds than you. If you can't score on him, you can't score on him. But you got to
4 boards in 7 years ago.
Get some rebounds.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
No. And it's a shame.
But just because somebody missed on the number 2 pick 10 years ago and a really good player went 3 or 5 or 7 or wherever, if you got the number 2 pick, if you can identify that person correctly, you could get a win, even if a bunch of people have missed in the past.
There could be 1,000, and you could have the 1,000 in first and do it. But the point is, very few draft picks are assured.
And that is the truth.
Yeah. Now, my latest in conversations and texting and so forth is thinking that they, they're in on Peterson. He's a smooth player.
So if he falls to 2, they take him.
Yeah, I'd say if he's available at 2. Yes. And then I want to say that if he stays healthy, he's going to be a player. But he probably said this about a lot of these guys. And then it turns out they're not. I think immediately, he may not have the immediate impact because he'll still be a youngster. But immediately, he'll be the best shooter. That's not to say he's going to have that impact the first or second year because you have to allow him to grow a little bit.
The best shooter on the team?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not in the world.
Well, I thought best shooter.
Not with Caitlin Clark over there, no matter how much her coach wants to bench her.
Best shooter in the draft. Best shooter in the team.
I got some women's sports too, you know.
Best shooter in the league.
I'm progressive.
Cool. Good for you.
I'm a girl dad. Look at me.
Sweet. Put a little name tag on it.
I think DB's a great analyst.
All right.
Yeah, I think you had to give him some time. And I don't care who it is, with rare exceptions. They have to.
Well, hence the first 3 on the list we were just talking about, Dylan Harper, Alex Sarr, Brandon Millen. Give them time and let them get to 25 years old and see who they are in the NBA.
As I'm watching this series that just concluded in the Western Conference, my analysis, for whatever it's worth, and if you want it to be worth nothing, that's fine. I still get the same amount of money. I think he's better than Dylan Harper. And I watched Dylan Harper play 20 times his freshman year because I knew the Jazz were going to be potentially in the mix. We talked about that, how I watched more Rutgers basketball in one season than I'll ever watch again in the rest of my life, and had to at that point.
Yes.
My father was a Seton Hall guy because they're from South Orange. They're in the Oranges, and so he always gravitated towards Seton Hall. So I watched a fair amount of Seton Hall and watched a whole lot of Rutgers. Rutgers football maybe, but not basketball. And I think that Peterson, once he gets established in the league, probably not next year, Harper will probably be better, but I think once he gets established, I think Peterson can be better, which I think is, in my mind, is a good compliment because I'm not downgrading Dylan Harper whatsoever.
For a young guy, he just had he's having a good playoff run here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, when he is like at best, third option.
Okay, well, he's 20 years old, so I don't expect him to carry it.
Neither do I, but I'm saying, but talk to me when he's 23, 24, 25, 26. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be third option. That's a compliment at best third option, is that he's having an impact and he's down the totem pole a little bit as a rook. So I'm high on Peterson. It would not be shocking whatsoever if Washington takes Peterson. I would not be shocked at all.
No, that would not be shocking. At most, mildly surprising, and maybe not even that. I mean, there was a time he was projected as the one pick. He just didn't play enough at Kansas, and so there's question marks, so maybe he's two.
Yeah, get past that.
But if they get past that and answer the questions, then you're just back to what people were saying about him a year ago.
I have Kevin Young's voice ringing in my ear in the hallway of the Moda Center in Portland in March, where he's two or three of us media guys, I'm one of them, and he says, shot making is the holy grail to me. Darren Peterson makes shots. And I know Locke over there is scared or nervous about Dybantsa's shot-making ability. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. It's realistic. I don't think anybody is scared or nervous about Darren Peterson's shot-making ability.
No.
It's the other stuff.
It's the availability with him. Yeah. It's the shot-making. It's the three-point shooting with Dybantsa. It's the availability with Peterson. And with Boozer, it's the lack of elite NBA athleticism.
I think that Dybantsa, it's beyond or a three-pointer too.
Really?
Yeah. Because if he's not a threat at the line, then it's easier to pack it in.
Yes.
And if he gets the shots in that what they call the mid-range, I don't have lack of faith. It's the ability to get to that spot, how easily he got to it in college. You've never done it against a pro-level competition for 82. So that is a little bit of a doubt. That doesn't mean he can't do it by any stretch. I'm just saying that there is a little bit of a doubt until you actually do it. And I believe he can do it, but I think that because if he's a zero or a non-threat, or as you like to say, dare him to take it, then that makes the other stuff harder because the maneuverability and the real estate availability becomes much tighter. Whereas Peterson can make shots all over the floor. And he's a player, man. There's just no doubt about it. So I don't think that the Jazz are going to have a bust at 2. But, man, when you go back all the way into this century,
you'd like to think the number 2 picks had produced more.
They don't.
I know. It's like, give me more all-star games, give me more 20-point seasons, give me more 50-win seasons.
Right.
Tell me you're one of the top 2 or 3 guys on a really good team. And they're just clearly a bunch of misses.
There's more misses. It's like the Elite 11 quarterbacks.
Okay. Yeah. I see where you're going.
Way more misses than actual hits on those lists.
We're doing this because Jazz fans obviously want the number 2 pick to be a guy you can say, that guy, saddle him up and ride him. And Holmgren, they couldn't saddle up and ride in the conference finals. He came and went. The games he was good. Game 5 was his best game. Okay, and they won. But he couldn't replicate it 4 times. His numbers were very different in the wins and losses. And they weren't that awesome in the wins, with the exception of Game 5. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
and
I'm
yet
sure all these other guys have had games here and there, too.
I know, right. And yet, if you look at what he did in the 2 previous playoff rounds, like for the flaws we just saw, and they were just front and center, you would take Holmgren over a bunch of these guys. That's the real red flag.
Well, yeah, but see, I don't know about that.
Really?
Because you're big on the money. Now, he's due for massive money. So would I rather take a James Wiseman and have him bust and I don't owe him anything, or take Homer and I got to pay him $50 million?
I would rather take Holman because I think the problem with someone who's a $30 million player, just to pick a number, and you pay him 50, is he'll get you a certain amount of the way, but then you're going to hit the wall. You're not going to have enough team in the second round of the playoffs, the conference final, whatever. And whereas a guy who washes out of the league or you can't even ride him to the playoffs. Ride him back to the lottery and the 10th pick. And
great. I'd rather give that another shot.
Oh, okay. Well, then you turn out to be Sacramento.
If you draft poorly, if you draft Luka Doncic, then you're not Sacramento, even though you're in Sacramento. It's the teams who draft poorly, shockingly, they suck.
Yep.
Well, duh. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why the Warriors are running in place and waiting for the Chinese sneaker guy to retire.
Yep.
They can spin it any way they want. They're not going anywhere.
But if they'd had a hit in the 2020 draft.
They had Wiseman and what's-his-face, the guy, Kuminga.
Yep.
And Kerr couldn't tap into Kuminga.
Didn't work.
And then they had Moses Moody. They had 3 higher picks, and they didn't score on any of them. Or the transition wouldn't have been as bad. They can argue they would still be a contender, and Klay Thompson would still be on the Warriors. But it didn't work. Even the best sometimes suck.
So the Warriors took James Wiseman. So if you put the Jazz in a similar situation, there were good players on the board, but do you have are you able to identify them? Do you have the conviction to just say, hey, this is going to shock everyone, but I'm taking Tyrese Halliburton, who went 12th in that draft. Or Avdija, the kid who was breaking out in Portland. He's
a nice player.
Yeah, he was 9th in that draft.
He's a nice player.
Tyrese Maxey was 21st in that draft.
Well, another Kentucky guy. Always go Kentucky guys if you're in doubt. I think at the second pick,
it would have been a reach to take Tyrese Maxey.
If there's one player behind you who's good, that's on you that you didn't get him.
Yep.
There's no excuse for bungling the second pick. It's just not. That's too high.
And yet it was bungled. And
you go to the 10th pick.
Has been bungled.
You got me.
Yeah.
The Jazz took Alec Burks and Kawhi Leonard was available. That was like 12 to 15, I think, somewhere in there. But my point is, the lower you get,
the less you hold people accountable.
It becomes more understandable. But the number 2 pick, no.
Come on.
No, no, you can't do that, especially when you've waited 4 years for this golden ticket that was given to you.
Charlie and the Chocolate.
Or you earned.
Willy Wonka.
You earned through losing the right to be there. And now they're going to change the whole friggin' rules.
Yeah.
Which is an absolute joke. How do you tell Memphis you make a trade in February under one set of rules and then you change the rules in May? What the heck is that?
And they apply to you because of...
Yeah, and it's the Jazz who... I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because the Jazz probably aren't going to be in that spot. We'll see what Cleveland and Minnesota do.
There's a chance that Memphis could feel very cheated. But
they can't get a top 5 pick.
Right, but based on how these teams perform, we're not expecting them to get that pick and get cheated.
That's sort of beside the point.
I get
what
it.
An awful decision they made.
I know.
To change the rules after we just gifted 3 top picks to San Antonio. Now we're going to change the rules?
Well, don't forget about Oklahoma City.
I would sue.
Wasn't that the lesson of these conference finals? two teams that were built by tanking. Look how good they are. There's certain.
Yeah, I don't think Oklahoma City was built by tanking as much as San Antonio. I don't even think it's close.
I agree with that.
Because they got a trade with SGA.
They did.
Their best player far and away was a trade.
But nonetheless, they were tanking. And they still got players.
I don't know that they were necessarily tanking versus they weren't good enough.
Oh, they were tanking.
But I don't think they got rewarded.
They weren't good enough. They didn't. Well, like the Warriors, I mean, we may look back and say they didn't cash in enough for their tanking.
Right. Well, they won a title.
What they won with, right, but most of what they won with, they either traded or they drafted way late, not part of the tanking.
Right.
AJ Mitchell wasn't the number 2 pick in the draft.
Nor
now
was
everyone's
Jalen
singing his
Williams.
praises. Right. Holmgren was.
Right. So they got Holmgren, and now everybody's dumping on him. I don't put Oklahoma City in the same category as San Antonio at all.
But Holmgren performed really well to get them to the conference final. Now, he came up short when he sees one by Yama.
But I got 3 guys over here versus 1 guy over here.
I know.
And I've got they've had 2-star centers, if you want to go Duncan, the power forward, whatever, 2-star big men, and Wembanyama has a chance to be better than both of them.
Yes.
So it's not even close.
But the lesson still is, you want to get there, keep tanking.
Well, not anymore.
We'll see. We'll see if moving the bag back didn't work last time. Now they move the bag back again. Granted, while Memphis was halfway up the baseline.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they moved it back again.
That's ridiculous.
So they moved the bag back to short right field. But we've been watching the NBA our whole life, and have always been teams tanking. Multiple teams. I think there's going to be. Now they've set it up so a team that's 6th or 7th might tank to get to 8th. We might have a playoff team tank.
Well, they're always going to be tanking, and it's the nature of the sport. I accept that, but I would have bitten the bullet and do it 3 to 5 years down the road.
Yacht suggested his grandfathering Memphis in. Like, do it right now, but that pick gets grandfathered in.
Well, there should have been multiple of those circumstances.
Right, so you can't, I'm going to make the rule for Mike Leach, but I'm not going to make it for everybody else.
Yep.
I'm going to make the rule, you gotta be a 4-year guy, and you got to be first-team All-American, unless you're Andrew Bogut.
Swing your sword, leave the pirate alone.
Well, it has nothing to do with him. It's the future guys. I'm fine with it. Do it.
Well, they did lower the overall threshold for
good. Do it, but it's better be done across the board. And you can't retire Doliak's jersey, but you can retire Andrew Bogut's. Who did more for the program? Doesn't make any sense.
Seems obvious.
Yeah. If you're going to change a rule, you don't just change it for one. You got to change it for everybody. And that's just, what a dumb thing. If I'm Memphis, I would just be furious.
I think they are.
They should be. So the Jazz, I think the bottom line here is that they will get a player. And if they get Darren Peterson, they very well could get the best player when we look back 2035. Well, you guys, I'll be dead. But in 2035, when you two look back and you two, Yak will probably replace me here very soon. So you two will be doing the show.
Are you breaking news here?
No, I think the company is, not me. No, I want to be here, but they won't let me. I mean, come on.
It's just radio shtick.
We understand.
Just ignore this. Is wasted. It's wasted 30 seconds of our lives.
Saturday night at the wedding, that was another story. But I think Peterson, there's a decent chance in 2035 when we look back and those guys got 10 years in the league that Peterson could very well be the best of this draft and be a really good player.
So is the biggest problem then that teams drafting number 2 have been too wedded to all of the conversation, like conventional
I see where
thought?
You're going. Yeah, it's safe.
And they do the safe, logical thing. But the fact is the people with all this, doing all the talking and helping create this conventional thought don't have enough info and routinely do not pick the best player available.
I don't think you can have enough info because none of these kids have ever been in that situation.
So really, it's an impossible task. It sounds good picking second.
No, it's not impossible because DA knew Jason Tatum was going to be a player. and he got it right.
So the 2 is too arbitrary because in that case he traded down from 1 to 3.
It could
but
be.
That was just in that particular year. It was just
circumstantial,
circumstantial who he could trade with, who was willing to make a move, and where he knew his guy was going to fall. It could have easily been he traded from 1 to 2, and then we're talking about, well, that guy's top shelf number 2 pick over the last 25 years.
And I've never heard him talk about this because I don't think he's going to badmouth a player publicly, but he may have looked at Fultz and thought, you got to be kidding me.
I wouldn't be surprised if he thought it, and I would be very surprised if he said it.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it makes sense. He's just looking at him clearly I would clearly prefer player A over player B.
Right.
And I don't know why anyone else can't see that, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
All right?
Right.
I'll get some bonus assets, the guy I want, and I'll just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Right. Maybe he did. He clearly, obviously liked Tatum, and he was right.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. More hoops with Steve Cleveland, 8 o'clock. I'm going to run that theory past PK. I mean, it is a question that a lot of college athletic directors have to face. We'll see what PK thinks. We were talking about it yesterday. We'll let PK cogitate on this. Next, stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
Look, private equity doesn't like to add costs. They like to limit costs because they have a bottom line that they have to hit. I just hate when you've got somebody who has been working in the marketing department forever or who's been a sports information director forever, and they're doing their job and they're busting their butt and they're trying to tell good stories, and those are the guys that are going to get affected.
And to me, it's just a direct response to BYU having all the money they need at their disposal, a built-in way to fund the program. There's nothing about this deal that screams win to me. I don't like the feeling of it. Matt Hayes summed it up best at the end of his article. He said, this is the same Utah Athletic Department that wanted so badly to push out football coach Kyle Whittingham at the end of a 10-win season, but was willing to pay him $13.5 million over the next 2 years to do so.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the Coach Tim LeCoe tomorrow from 10 to 2 at Mountain Supply's grand opening in Eagle Mountain, 766 East Split Rock Drive. So I was watching the college baseball and softball over the weekend. There was very little basketball and hockey. And there were multiple games on, and I got sucked into the vortex. And I couldn't help but notice the SEC was advancing at a tremendous clip in both tournaments, PK. Turns out 12 of the 16 SEC schools had teams in the baseball tournament, and now we know 7 of them have advanced to the Super Regional. And in softball, they got 12 teams in. 9 went to the Super Regional. 5 were among the 8 that went to the World Series. And they had 3 of the last 4, and now they have Texas trying to repeat against Texas Tech from the Big 12. And we know in football, the slogan for a long time was, it just means more. And we know they keep talking like they're the SEC and in charge. But over the last 3 years, in playoff games, against other Power 4 leagues, they're 2-8. Well, that's not good enough by SEC standards. And I think a lot of us believe, and I think you're in this list, well, they had some teams that were willing to pay money when it was illegal, and they won more.
Yeah.
And now other teams are paying a ton of NIL money, and the SEC's not winning as much.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball and softball, and Chris Hill told me, 25 years ago, he said, the SEC doesn't have as many teams, as many sports. They'll have 16, 18, whatever. And then you go to some of these Big Ten schools, they'll do 20, 25, a couple of them do 30.
Have 26.
Yeah, okay, Sun Devils have 26. He said the SEC has fewer teams, but they fund them, and they want to be elite, whether it's women's basketball, South Carolina, women's gymnastics, softball, baseball, you on down the line. So do you think we're going to see the SEC pull money out of sports like baseball and softball and not try to excel? Because they are literally dominating on the field. It's overwhelming. And push more money towards football.
No.
Oh, really? They're going to live with 2-8 in football? They're going to raise more money and win more games? What is their path forward here?
I think that it's about the other teams, too. I don't think that the Big Ten teams, and there are exceptions, universities are going to pour that much money into baseball, and there's not money available there, and so they've got a good thing going. The weather is more conducive, obviously, so I think they will continue to dominate because the system is going to allow that. And if you ask Ohio State, clearly, obviously, what would you rather be? any sport versus football, and they'll take football. So they're going to continue to dump the most of their money. It's not conducive to where they are in their part of the country for them to be as successful as it is in football. So I think that they'll write it off and not care, and so they don't have to, in the SEC, put in oodles amounts of money to be successful, because the other guys they're putting in even less. So it's going to be money driven. I told you, what was it?
You told me about is this the backup infielder story?
2 years ago, they were still in the Pac-12. It was the last Pac-12 media thing, I think. And I'm talking to someone, and I don't want to give out names, and he's just talking about the money situation to me, and he's not complaining. He's just telling it like it is. And sometimes, you tell it like it is, it comes off as negative because it is. It's not complaining. You're just addressing the situation.
The facts are negative, right.
And he was saying that they had a kid who was a starting infielder, and an SEC school gave him $250,000 to be a backup. And they couldn't compete with that. So he left.
I was literally thinking about that story and thinking, so does a baseball budget in SEC school get cut, and the baseball coach gets told, you're going to have to stop spending $250 on your backup infielders because we need that money to get better football players.
But I don't think $250 ain't going to cut it in football. But it can cut it in basketball. That's my point.
Right.
In basketball, not basketball, football, it can cut it in baseball. So he can go there in baseball. That's not that much money.
I get where you're going with that, but if you take a couple $250,000 players away from 4, 6, or 8 teams, I don't know, whatever, now you've scraped together another $2 million.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's going to be that many other sports are going to offer $250. Get a chance to go to College World Series, make your program a winning program, and you can actually make money on it. And so you're going to do that. People come to your games. They have great attendance. And so it's something that they don't want to just dismiss. Whereas in football, you need way more than that. And Ohio States of the world, and Indiana's and Michigan's, and they're gonna just keep upping it. You don't have that kind of money to compete at the level of football. This other stuff is peanuts over here.
The Big Ten, to your point, normally doesn't do well. Now with realignment, they have 2 teams in the College World Series, in the Super Regional, because they got USC and Oregon now. I mean, they're just not historically
and
Big Ten
UCLA was
teams.
the number 1 seed and got upset.
Yes,
so,
St. Mary's.
Yeah, and they were, but that's baseball.
Who then flamed out themselves to Cal Poly.
But that's baseball.
Well, it was baseball for a long time. I mean, the Fresno States and Pepperdine's and Fullerton State. I mean, you go down a lot of schools that don't play big-time football in California, and to your point, there were a lot of players, they had the weather, and they had tournament runs and tournament finals and championships in some cases. Now, this year, and maybe your point about, Little Rock and Troy have both advanced to a super regional or playing each other. But for a while there, it was all SEC and ACC. There was one year that the ACC put 4 teams in and the SEC put 4.
Yeah, and they'll still do it. I mean, baseball has a certain level of randomness that allows it. I mean, the best teams in the big leagues lose 60 games a year. Yeah. Right? And so
even the Dodgers can't help it.
Right. That happens. So I understand. That's what makes it. You want March Madness. The argument is that are we done with March Madness, and it's just going to be the big dogs versus over here, not necessarily. There's way more perceived upsets in baseball than there is in basketball. There would be no way a St. Mary's caliber would take down the number 1 seed. It just would never happen. And Randy Bennett did a phenomenal job, but it's never going to happen. Whereas it happens in baseball.
The 1 seed's out, the 2 seed's out, a bunch of them are out.
Yeah.
There's been more random this year than there was even 3-4 years ago.
And I think that maybe is circumstantial. So I don't expect it to change. And for me personally, it seriously bugs me.
What bugs you?
Because I was a Sun Devil baseball fan way before I was a Sun Devil anything. Way more. Because I was a pro football guy, a pro basketball guy, and when I moved to Phoenix, we didn't have any baseball, and the Sun Devils were it. I can name you every one of their guys. I went to probably 25 games a year.
And saw a lot of future Hall of Famers.
Yes.
They, having been there at the old stadium, the one on campus, they've moved now. But I was there one time for a UC Santa Barbara series, and I mean, I knew it, but it was still super impressive out in left field. They had the number name.
Yeah, they still
thing.
have it.
They still do. Okay.
I mean, it's the new. Well, it's
really
not
cool.
a new stadium, but it's
it was
Phoenix Municipal.
Because
Stadium.
of when they were awesome. Those were names that I knew as pros turning on World Series.
Yeah, and we talked about Bob Horner dying last week. I mean, Bob Horner was there for 3 years. Guess how many years they went to the College World Series?
1, 3.
3.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, former Fresno State coach. Who's he got in the final? Can the Knicks do it? We'll talk with him next. Stay with us. DJ PK and Steve Cleveland is checking in, a former BYU basketball coach, former Fresno State coach. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, fellas.
It's the New York Knickerbockers and the San Antonio Spurs. Steve, what do you expect? What do you think? Give us some genius. What do you got?
You know, it's interesting because the Knicks right now are going to do something. If they can win here and get where they need to be, everything is historically dominant. It's a playoff winning streak, 11-game winning streak. Sweeping both the Sixers, though the Sixers didn't have everyone there, and the Cavs. But they do bring a really deep front court, and they have size. And we'll have to see. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, along with Mitch Robinson. You know what? There are good things there. You know, and I think we're kind of looking at it more of a Wemby era right now. Defensive Player of the Year, kind of carried the Spurs and had a grueling 7-game series against OKC, the defending NBA champs. And really what's happening here, the goal is hopes that this young superstar can be the best player on the floor. 4 games, to secure the title. So it begins with San Antonio Spurs. Knicks are going to be the underdogs. It's funny. I don't really have a best pick for myself. I kind of like the idea that the Knicks can be relevant again. And it's been a long time since they've been relevant. And there's nothing against, San Antonio, but I'd like to see the underdogs find a way to win this thing and go from there.
We talk about how you've got to be big, you've got to have size. Well, Jalen Brunson doesn't have that, but yet he continues to succeed. And one of my theories, and I wanted to run by you, like you take a guy like Paul George, he was probably a short guy at some point, and then he continued to grow, and then he blows up, right? Well, Jalen Brunson was probably short his whole life. And so no matter what level he's playing at, he's one of the smaller guys, and so he's got to find a way to utilize his skills. And in a sense, man, he must have had to work so hard to be able to find ways to be successful, probably even at the high school level, the AAU level, certainly in college at Villanova, and at the pro level, he was doubted every step of the way, and yet he continues to do that. It's an amazing story to me that he is where he is, given the fact that human beings have grown so much. And, we're used to the 6'6", 6'7" dudes just dominating. Wemby 7'4". My gosh, the list goes on and on. So I'm just so impressed with him. And I'm wondering if you think that the fact that he was short and never did grow actually became an advantage, because if he was going to succeed, he needed to find ways that were different than just simply raw, natural athletic ability.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, and I looked at these finals, and, it's we know what the narrative is, but the Knicks are rested. They're going to play the San Antonio Spurs, who has a talent edge, I think, with their size and their ability. But the Knicks are playing for history here, and they're riding a historically dominant 11-game playoff winning streak after – sweeping both the Sixers and Cavs, and beating the Sixers really doesn't mean much because they weren't there in full strength. But there is a deep front court. They have size. Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, along with Mitch Robinson. I guess he's got a broken pinky. Hope they'll have that. I'll be okay. But I think that I like the next year. And maybe it's just because, that's who I'm pulling for, because it's been a long time, 50 years. And let's get this done. So that's what I'm hoping happens. I know this is the Wemby era, and he carried the Spurs all year, and certainly he's a superstar for a long time coming. But the Knicks are the underdogs, and let's get this on, and let's see it happen right in front of us.
Do you think the shot distribution changes? Danny Ainge, PK's got the great quote. I don't remember exactly the situation you got it in. FGA's, baby.
It was the alumni game between Utah and BYU.
Okay, there was. FGA is the most important stat.
Yeah.
So he's being funny.
I didn't hear you.
But
Share that with me again.
He was joking. They used to play BYU. Utah would play an alumni game, get guys come in the summer. And Ainge was there. I don't even remember if he was playing, but I was talking to him. I mean, he might have been. I can't remember. And he was just saying that, stats. We get so excited about stats, but the stat as a player he cared about most was FGAs.
Yeah.
Field goals attempted. That's what he wanted. So that was his.
Yep.
That was his joking way of saying he was going to bomb it.
Let him fly, baby.
And he was pretty good at it too.
So the Knicks, I just want to say the Knicks, Brunson takes in the playoffs during this big win streak, Brunson's taken 20 shots per game, and the next four guys are all at 10 or 11 shots a game. Given the Wemby, and is Brunson going to be taking 20 shots a game, or are these other guys going to get more shots, and then do they come through? Because they've been shooting at a much better clip than Brunson.
Yes. Well, I don't disagree with you there, but I'm kind of looking at this thing from the perspective of history could be made here, and they do have an 11-game playoff winning streak, and they didn't really beat anybody real good to get there, but the Cavs were competitive, the Sixers had issues, but when you could bring a deep front court and have size like Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby and Mitch Robinson, it puts you in a situation where you do have length. And yes, are they going to be put in situations that maybe they've not been in before? But I think this New York team is, it's the biggest market in the world. They're searching for their first championship in over 50 years. They're running, as we mentioned before, 11-game winning streak, deep front court with the bigs. And they play suffocating defense. And what do we always say? Defense wins what? Championships. And so I'm going to ride that, and I'm going to follow that. And they do have a suffocating defense. They forced 21 turnovers and 41% team defense, which tells you that that's an important part of the Knicks and who they are and what they've done. They did win that They won the NBA Cup title in 2026. And they were able to slow Wemby down. I know that's not, where we are right now, but still, it's out there, and there's enough there to just get me to be persuaded that this is going to be an upset. And in the Knicks' mind, they don't think it's an upset, but it is an upset if they were to, hang on to that big front court and find ways to guard and suffocating defense. I think it was 21 turnovers is what they're forcing every game, and 41% team defense. So the Knicks are there. They've been there, and I don't know that the NBA Cup title means anything, but the bottom line is their whole goal has to be slowing Wemby down. And if they can do that, get Wemby in foul trouble, anything that they can do to have an advantage, which a lot of people feel like Wemby is the advantage, but we'll see how it plays out. But those are my thoughts on that.
In the 2024-25 college basketball season, we knew that the Jazz were going to not be good and have potential for a high pick, right? They ended up taking fifth, Ace Bailey. So consequently, in order to be more versed on Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, because we knew that they were going to be going very high, I ended up watching a lot of Rutgers basketball. It fit well with the time difference, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the winter. I got nothing else to do, and so why not use it for work? So I ended up watching Rutgers basketball, probably 20 games, watching those two to get a feel for them.
Yeah.
And so, I saw Dylan Harper play a lot, and Ace Bailey for that matter. And now we're watching the Spurs go, and you see Dylan Harper. He's an emerging player. He's a very nice player, right? And I think he has a chance to be really good. But as I watch him I was texting somebody with the Jazz about this the other night as I was watching. I think, and get your thought on it, is that when I compare Dylan Harper, who I'm very high on, and was the number 2 pick, I think Darren Peterson can be better. And there's, a decent chance, if not odds-on favorite, that the Jazz have that opportunity to take Darren Peterson. And we talked about, I'm covering the NCAA tournament in Portland. It is at least an hour after the Cougars lose, and Kevin Young has done all of his podium interviews, and he comes down the hall. There's a couple of the guys, a couple of the KSL guys and myself are waiting for him, and he stops, and he starts talking to us, and he says, I view shooting as the holy grail in basketball, and it just screamed at me. And I look at Darren Peterson, I look at Derek Harper, or Dylan Harper. I think Peterson is better. So if it comes down to that, I'm all for it. Compare those two players and be with the idea of shooting in Kevin Young's mind being the holy grail.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And that's the, whether it's in professional or collegiate basketball, teams who consistently win and teams who, have an advantage are the teams that, number one, have great coaches who can first and foremost get their guys knowing and understanding what their talent is and how they can help their teams. And when it comes down to it, you look at AJ and Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson, these are all guys that can shoot. And as it was mentioned before, the Holy Grail. I think Peterson is the most talented. He's got a 5.25 wingspan, he's a shot maker. We've talked about that. He's averaging 20 a game and 38% from the three. Whether he can create shots at that size is still probably unknown, but he in my mind, they can't go wrong. They can't go wrong with Peterson. I just think he has such an upside in the fact that he is a shot maker, and that he shoots 38% from the three and 49% from the field goal. And, I'll keep going back, can he create shots? I think anybody at 6'11" or 7 foot, whatever, however tall he is, he changes the game. And in some ways, a lot like Wemby, in that you're a shot maker. You can create shots. It's hard to guard. I mean, when you're guarding a guy 6'11", 7 foot, who not only can shoot the ball from the perimeter and shoot the three, but has the ability to really have a presence defensively with that size. And I know the NBA is very different than the collegiate game, but having as many bigs as you can on the floor that can pass and shoot and defend, I think Peterson's the guy. He's a better fit with the Jazz, and I don't know that Boozer will become part of this and what will happen, but I like that, and we'll see how it plays out, and if there's trades involved. But if the Jazz can get Peterson at that second spot, if AJ is, he's the number one guy, I don't know how to play out. I think it's a great win. I think it's a great win for the Jazz.
Do you have any theory on why number 2 picks tend to be pretty disappointing? The shortage of everything. NBA titles, NBA finals, best player on the team, all-stars, Olympians, 20-point scores, whatever you want. We went over the list of the past 25, and it's past 25 years, the number 2 picks. It's pretty disappointing.
Man, I'm not sure I have an answer to that, but here's just a couple of thoughts. That those are the facts, and things can change and things can happen, and if it's that many years, there is, it tells you how good the number 1 picks are. And but I think that whether it's Peterson, AJ, Boozer, I think all of those players are going to have an impact no matter where they're picked. And but that is an interesting statistic that I've never even thought about or heard. And you got 3 franchise cornerstone guys, and I mean, maybe, I don't know, because I haven't talked to Austin or Danny about this, but in my mind, I think Darren Peterson may have, now he had injury troubles and there was maybe some psychology issues, but if he's healthy and he can do those things, there's a big difference between 7 foot and a 6'8" or a 6'7" AJ. And AJ, I think, is everybody's dream. I mean, he's just so talented, and we hear all the pundits and what they have to say. But I think Peterson might be the most talented if he can stay healthy. I mean, he's got big wingspan, he can make shots, and he can shoot the three, which he stretches guys. And I've never seen him. I haven't watched enough film on him to know if he's breaking guys down, But in that league, there's a lot of bigs. And so it's not like you have to worry about a 6'7" guy that's going to zip by somebody. Everybody's 6'7", 6'9", 7 foot, 7'1". So I think right now going into this thing, that Peterson is the most talented because of those things. And I guess I don't know enough about him, and I haven't watched enough tape to know how creative he is. But we all watched his games, and I mean, he stretches the floor. He makes defenses really, they have to keep him honest. I mean, Peterson can do that, and a lot of people feel like he's the most talented guy in this draft, and maybe, as I said before, a better fit for the Jazz than AJ or Boozer or whomever.
I think he is the best fit. That doesn't necessarily mean you take him, though. You take the best player, and you go from there. And if you have to move guys, so be it. But there's no question if you just went on fit. I watched him a ton, and with the advent of these all-star games and televised games at the high school level, you get to see these kids, these real elite kids, well before they actually get to college, because they're available and the tape is available. And I'm thinking that there's no question he's pure. He's smooth, man. He just he has a way. And he's you see a smooth player, somebody who's always on balance and never looks awkward. That's this kid. And I think that one of the things that isn't really talked about is that his ability to distribute, particularly at the pro level, when you've got guys like Jaren Jackson, Market, and George. These guys, I can take them over to the arena right now, turn out the lights, and they shoot 50%. I mean, they are pure shooters. And so you got somebody who, in college, the teammates aren't as good. I think one of the things that's not talked about a lot with him is his ability to distribute, because he can break you down. And from the times I've seen him, he is a willing passer, and I think that's something to be excited about.
Yeah, I love that, being a willing passer, which tells you immediately already he's a good teammate, and that he's coachable, and that whomever gets him is going to, is going to be lucky. Anybody gets these top 2 or 3 picks, it's going to make their program better and their organization better. So I agree with you, and I'm just going to stay with that. I think he's the best fit, Peterson, for the Jazz. And, and there's an argument that can be made about AJ and this and that. And I think they're all both going to be really good pros. But in my mind, if I was picking, I like Peterson, and they can get him.
He's Steve Cleveland. He joins us every week. Steve, thanks for coming on. And when we talk to you again, we'll have a couple games in the books, and we'll have an idea maybe where this is going. Looking forward to it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right. There's Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach. Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, coming up at 9 o'clock. He'll be at the top of the hour for the spring football tour. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
For Jazz fans, it's been a rough few years. Well, those days are behind us as the Utah Jazz finally struck gold in the NBA Draft Lottery.
Picking second.
As the Jazz prepare to draft a potential superstar with the number 2 overall pick, nobody will bring you better coverage of the NBA Draft than the KSL Sports Zone. For all the breaking news, high-profile interviews, and player analysis leading right up to draft night, keep it locked on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball, 97.5. The KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're just talking NBA Finals and NBA Draft with Steve Cleveland. The month of June is going to be really interesting. And David Locke has brought this up. May not be super popular with BYU fans or Jazz fans who love AJ Dybantsa, but don't know if he's right, but he's not wrong. And I think we need to take a deeper dive into the whole everybody at the top of the draft has the flaw that's been talked about, right? Whether they overcome it or not, time will tell. With Dybantsa, it's can he shoot the three? With Peterson, it's, well, how many games is he going to play? And with Boozer, it's like, he's really good, but does he have the elite athleticism to be awesome? Or are you drafting a guy who's going to be, the third best guy on your team, but you're really going to love your third best guy, the way Jazz fans love Jeff Hornacek. You're going to love him. But don't think he can be the best guy on a championship team. He's not that. So to stay with AJ and the finals here, and it's the Knicks aren't as clear cut. Like Jalen Brunson has the ball most of the time, maybe not as much as he used to, but he still got it most of the time. He still takes the most shots. He doesn't get paid the most. Part of Brunson's magic is that dude took $35 million when he could have leveraged his way to 50, but he took 35, and now they got more money to build the rest of the team, and they got a pretty good team around him. He's a really good offensive player. He does not shoot the three great. 37% in the regular season this year, 35% in the playoffs. Now, I think instead of asking, is Dybantsa going to be a good or bad three-point shooter, he was a 33% three-point shooter in college. That number can go up. It doesn't go up for every player, and then it can go up, depending on the player, different degrees. It's not just you don't have just two choices here, yes or no. He can shoot it or he can't. Tell me if AJ Dybantsa is going to shoot 32%. Tell me if he's going to shoot 35. Tell me if he's going to shoot 38. Tell me if he gets over 40. Like, if that dude gets over 40.
If he goes over 40, he's going to be a superstar forever.
Right? I mean, he is going to be there's only like 40 guys in the league who do that. He does so much other stuff.
That's not his game, though.
But I wouldn't expect him to get there. Right?
Okay,
but Brunson can do a lot of stuff, and he shoots 37% from three. 37% from three in the regular season, and that drops to 35 in the playoffs. Better competition, better scouting, more intensity. 2 points that's just a thing that says to me, okay, yeah, you dropped a couple points in the playoffs. It's not a big deal. So if Dybantsa could do that, shoot 37% in the regular season and 35 in the playoffs, with all the other stuff he can do, seems to me like you got yourself a pretty good pro right there, and you need to stop worrying about it. But that's just me. Okay. And I don't know that he can get there. Maybe not. He shot 33 this year. Maybe he is a 32 or 33 guy. And I think at that point, he gets defended differently, and that puts limits on how far he can go, as you pointed out correctly earlier in the show. And tell me also how much he's going to get paid. Like Holmgren, okay, we saw some limits there. And I mean, the limit is how do you match up against Wembanyama? But he looked dominated, he looked intimidated, and just completely shut down in Game 7. And the rebounding bugged me as much as the scoring.
I'm fine. Yeah, he's a 7-footer.
Yeah, get more than 4 boards.
The thing that I want to see with Dybantsa, which we didn't get to see, is have him play with real talent. And the BYU was woefully short on talent last season. And
it got worse as the season went along.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, on its own, Dawson Baker's injury shouldn't have been as big of a deal. But then coupled with a couple of things, Richie Saunders' injury, and the fact that all the other guys outside of Baker were bench guys were ineffective.
They weren't good enough.
And they were freshmen, or they hadn't played. They were redshirt freshmen or transferred or whatnot. They were too young.
So a couple key injuries were bad enough, but the drop-off behind those two guys was, as it turned out, it was staggering.
Right. And he had to do, Dybantsa just had to do way, way, way too much. And coming in, if he comes in, and obviously we're way more intimately familiar with the Jazz, I think that he's going to be a complimentary player at the start. Ace Bailey was a complimentary player. He may end up being a star. Locke talking about he could be the potential number one option in February. That seems way ahead of schedule for me, but we'll see. And so Dybantsa coming in next year will have an opportunity to develop at a much more reasonable pace, and everything won't be on his shoulders. I mean, you can argue very little will be on his shoulders. So I want to see how he does in those situations where he doesn't have – every time he touched the ball, defensively, he had 10 eyes on him.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yep. 100%. But it was bad for BYU, and that's why the losses piled up late in the year. But I think it was good for the NBA scouts and the NBA fans and media like us because it put more pressure on him. It put more load on him. How does he respond? And I thought he responded pretty well.
Right. There's no question.
So it totally increased his value. It did not help BYU win more games.
I mean, the end of their season,
the end of their season was.
You can argue they went as far as they could go under the circumstances.
Okay, so this is not apples to apples, but do you know the jump that Jaeger Dielman took from his shooting percentage at BYU his first year in the NBA?
Yeah,
27.5% at BYU. 38.5% his first year with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, that's massive.
It's massive. Now, not every player does that. To his credit, he did.
The reason why I say that, to your point, PK, is you have more spacing, you have more talent around you, and therefore you're going to be given more opportunities to shoot at a higher level, you would imagine.
Before I call him a good or a bad shooter, I want to see him next year. And if he's with Washington, we'll watch him. We'll watch Washington more than we did just because of him. If he's with the Jazz, then we see 82.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to say that. So I'm hesitant to put a label on him as he's a bad shooter. The percentages were what they were, but sitting there courtside in the tournament when it matters the most, literally 3 guys above the three-point line, and he's 4 feet from the half-court line on the BYU side, and he's got to look, and he's looking at a quarterback, and I got no offensive line.
Yes. Yeah, he was Patrick Mahomes in a couple of Super Bowls. I'm totally with you. And it was like the ghost of Rick Majerus was everywhere in the arena. How many times did Rick tell you, even though he violated it a couple times that we remember, don't let the other team's best player beat you?
Yeah.
You heard that from him and saw that from him so many times. Now, it didn't always work. Zerbiak was Miami's best player, and they got upset.
Like the only kid.
Right.
Example.
But that was one of the constants of Rick. And then you watch a BYU game years later, and it's like, well, that's what the other team is thinking. That the whole last, 10 games of the regular season, the conference tournament, the NCAA tournament, don't let Dybantsa beat you. He's the best guy.
When Richie went down, they were, that was all
so predictable.
Find AJ, stop AJ.
Yeah. And halftime, Sean Miller, they ask him, how are you going to get Dybantsa under control? I don't think we can. That's a paraphrase, but that's the message.
Right.
It's Sean Miller. Sean Miller, you remember Jerome Lane threw down that dunk for Pittsburgh and it broke the backboard?
I happened to be watching
Sean
live.
Miller gave him the pass.
And I was stunned.
He knows what he's talking about.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
I didn't know through that pass. I could see that play. It was totally random that I got home to the apartment and turned it on, and he went down. I went, whoa, I can't believe I just saw that.
Right. Sean Miller was the one who passed it. You can look it up.
That's awesome.
He played for Pitt. So you're basically saying, I don't think we can. Not going to happen. We got to make sure we do our stuff, limit the other guys. This guy, what he's saying is, this guy, even though it's 1-on-5, is so overwhelming. And he sucked from the three-point line that night, but they're down. He's got to take the shots. He wants to win. So all these things aren't going to come to pass in the NBA to the level that they did this past season. Now, he may not end up being a great shooter, but I'm not going to just slap him with, he's a poor shooter, that's who he is, forget about it, put it in the bank, and when we get to 2040 and he's done with his NBA career, see, he was a bad shooter. No, let's see how it goes. If the Jazz draft him, have a party. Because he has a chance to really be something special. If they draft Aaron Peterson, have a party. Yeah, I think it's going to be one or the other unless something funky happens. So I'm totally content with him, and let's see him develop his game. Give him the opportunity to get better.
I filled in last week on Scotty G's show.
And did a hell of a job.
Appreciate that. We talked with Locke, and we need to ask him about this on Friday when you guys have him on again, about the comparison he has, because he talks about AJ's shooting, but he still believes that AJ, even without the shooting, is a perennial all-star level player.
I don't see why not. It's very possible. I'm not going to slap. If I'm not going to say he's a bad shooter, I'm not going to also slap, he's a 10-time all-star on him either.
And look what Brunson has done, shooting 37% of regular season and 35% in the playoffs. Those are 37's okay. 35 is like the edge of acceptable to me.
Well, Locke's point was if he goes to 37 or 38% from three, AJ will be a perennial All-NBA guy.
Well, 35 in the playoffs, though, it's such a small sample. That could be the difference of 2 or 3 missed shots.
Correct.
Whereas 82 or however many he plays in the regular season, that's a much bigger
It is
pool.
a bigger sample size. But at this point now, he's averaging over 6 threes per game. So his sample size, what are they, 13 games deep now? 14 games. Yeah, he's played 14 games. So 14 times 6 is...
okay, but how many of those are in the shot clocks or what have you? They're not wide open threes where he has time to line up a putt.
I just don't think you have to be a sharpshooter from
I understand
three
your point that you're
to
making.
be a star. He's taken about 90 3-pointers ballpark here in the playoffs this year. That's a pretty good sample size. I mean, you're right, it could be bigger. But they're winning and dominating, and that's what he's doing. And he's the guy who gets most of the shots. It's an odd team. He's not the best paid player, but he is the guy who has the ball the most, although he doesn't seem to have it as much as he used to. They're spreading it around a little bit.
Sure. And I want to see Dybantsa when he has the opportunity to be in an offense where it is spread around.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen that.
But the whole point center thing, Karl Anthony Towns is averaging like 6 assists a game in the playoffs. You know, a lot of stuff's going through him. Now, Brunson's averaging 6.5. It's not like the ball's totally out of Brunson's hands. It's not.
Well, Karl Anthony Towns, there's one thing Jersey guys can do, and they can pass the ball.
See, there you go.
He's a Jersey, and he's a golfer.
Is he North Jersey, South Jersey?
North. No, you can tell the difference.
Okay. And not Central Jersey. Is Rutgers Central Jersey or Princeton? One of them is
Princeton.
Princeton's in the middle of the state. Where is Rutgers?
North,
okay. So Rutgers and Seton Hall are both north.
Mm.
All right. Glad we got that down.
Yeah.
All right, you got golf stories next. You've been aching to tell these. You were texting me about these.
Well, there's one in particular.
Really?
Yeah.
A story so good, you've already told people and they don't believe it?
Oh, I've told probably 10 people.
Oh, really? How many of them have believed you?
Well, one's a cynical dude.
Okay. We'll get to this next. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LaComb.
Kurt Heelan, NBC Sports, and ProBasketballTalk.com.
You can't talk about the Knicks and their dominance without talking about how futile the Cavs were. But the non-timeout and the issue all series with Harden, I was surprised to see Kenny Atkinson be brought back. Were you?
A little. I think that they genuinely, like their front office backs him and they think, look, we got farther than we could have. The weird thing is it looks kind of like they're going to run it back. They don't trade for James Harden. That deal doesn't get done without a handshake deal to extend him. They're not going to let Mitchell go. It's going to be an interesting offseason if they run it back. Right now, that's the way they're talking, but I can't see that being, just seems like it'll be worse.
That seems like the definition of insanity to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know how that's going to end. You just do. You've got enough data points to know how that's going to end.
And everybody's going to be better, and if you're just the same, you're fading. You're getting worse.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the Coach Tim LaComb Friday 10 to 2 at the Larry H. Miller Summer Games in Cedar City. Celebrate 40 years of a Utah sports tradition. The floor is yours there, golf guy. What do you got? You had to go to a couple of weddings. It's a throwback time for you. Any karaoke at the weddings? Anything?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
2 in 48 hours. One in town, one out of town.
And you probably hadn't done 2 in the last year?
Yeah, I know. And 2 where I had to be there, not just make an appearance, boom, and get out. I mean, it was very important that I was there.
Right.
Under the circumstances, right?
It wasn't blow a kiss, wave, and hit the road.
Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Going to the temple and we're gonna get married.
That is by the Dixie Cups. You can look that up. Sing that tune. Very lovely tune. So the local wedding, there were several guys who wanted to talk sports with me. Me just being this overly friendly that I am. Yeah, bring it on. And so this was, we were representing the bride, but the groom's, the sister of the groom's mother and her husband, right? Follow me?
Groom's mom, sister. So the groom's aunt.
And
uncle.
Aunt and uncle, yeah.
Uncle-in-law.
Right.
Okay.
And so we chatted a few times, and then he chatted again. He says, and they're listeners, hardcore listeners, right? And so he tells me, yeah, you tell golf stories, man. Yeah, sure, we do. Yeah, every one of them, gospel truth too. And he says, I got one. I said, all right. I got to be here for another 2-3 hours. Let's have it. And so this is several years ago. He and his wife, his sweet wife, who was standing right there, they were golfing in Orlando over by Disney World. I don't know if it's associated with Disney World, but it's it's in the vicinity. Right? And he and his wife are golfing, and it is getting late. So they're a twosome. The twosome ahead says, hey, why don't you join us so you can finish? Because sun's going down, and the four of us will play together.
Okay.
Great. So they pair up with the other two. And this guy he's younger than we are, which is pertinent here in a minute. And sees the guys. They have introductions. One guy says he's Paul. So my guy asks, Paul, where are you from? And once I tell you where he's from, you are going to say, no. Paul says he's from, pausing for dramatic effect. Paul says he's from, his name's Paul, says he's from Liverpool, England.
No.
You know a Paul from Liverpool, England?
I do.
And who might that be?
McCartney, a.k.a. a Beatle.
Who it was.
No way. What?
Now, he's got his wife, who, you look at her, she's nodding her head. I promise you, this is the first time I've ever been in front of these people, I promise you that woman has never told a lie in her life.
Okay.
You just look at her.
And you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
She should have been a sitcom mom in the 50s.
She
on some black and
bingo.
white.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Just
yeah.
Classic Utah, pure, innocent, great woman. I can already tell. You can just tell by looking at her. And she's nodding her head. Yep. So he played, I don't remember how many holes, but to finish, he played friggin' golf with Paul McCartney. And he says Paul had a custom 3-wood that Paul let him use.
Oh, so he's swinging Paul McCartney's clubs. Okay.
I was swinging Paul McCartney's 3-wood.
So he tells me. He tells me this. And I'm like, no way. I got the same reaction.
So he's playing golf, and the twosome in front of says, hey, you want to play? And it's a freaking Beatle.
Yes.
It's a multi-millionaire, multi-time Grammy Award winner, multi-platinum.
Probably when he dies, he's 83 now. He just put out an album. He will die the most famous musician maybe of all time.
Because
of his career.
He's in the mix.
John Lennon obviously, unfortunately, was killed at 40. Paul that was like 1980, and he's, what an unbelievable, amazing
And he
career.
seems comfortable. He's been doing a lot of stuff to promote the album. He's been talk shows and
he's
Saturday
into
Night Live
sports. I saw him at the Yankee game, and then Chad Lewis showed me a picture when the Super Bowl was in at the Cardinal Stadium last. He was in the next suite over, and Chad showed me the picture of him and Paul.
He shows up to a lot of sporting events.
So he's got that. He's interested in that. And so the guy I know,
random golf course,
says,
in Orlando.
What's going on? He says, my family is at Disneyland or Disney World. Yeah. You didn't want to go? He says, no, I don't like crowds.
That's funny because I got a picture of Shea Stadium a few years ago. It looked kind of packed.
Yeah. Whereas, he's been this ultimate, wherever he goes, you'd think would attract an enormous crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And my guy is younger.
That is
and
awesome.
So people say, he didn't recognize Paul McCartney. He said he thought it was him, but he wanted to make sure.
Where are you from? Liverpool.
Yeah. And once you said that.
Okay, you are who I thought you were.
Yeah.
Sir McCartney, might I presume?
The thing that throws you off, I think, about meeting famous people is that you don't really know when you see, photos of people all the time. It doesn't tell you, like, who's 5'7" and who's, like, 6'3".
Yeah,
and so
Tom Cruise is way short.
It can throw you a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're not looking for him, and then you're like, ugh.
So I texted. I didn't want to text you because I wanted a live reaction.
Well, you got it.
Yeah, and I wanted.
Sure.
I didn't even text.
But you texted other people.
Oh, I texted tons of people. Yeah, I texted so many different people. I texted the coach, a Big Ten football coach.
Which one?
I ain't saying. I may only have one number from me.
How did Lincoln Riley react?
Is this one that you like to debate a lot of this stuff with?
And he responds, "Holy crap, but I'm having a hard time believing that." I said, if you would have looked into the eyes of his wife, there's no way this woman's going to lie. You're not going to, I'm going to go back and tell it on the air.
Yeah.
It's going to get back to him. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to make that up to me. That's too outrageous. If you're going to make it up, it's going to be Ringo. It's not going to be Paul McCartney.
An entry-level Beatle.
I was playing golf with Ringo Starr.
Right. Which would have been awesome.
Sure. Yeah, but it's not Paul McCartney.
But you go to the top. Yeah. So my guy, now coaching Big Ten football, says he's having a hard time believing it. Everybody else that I texted said, "Oh, that's unbelievable." And I told this guy, I said, You've taught me for all time. I will never have a golf story that will be
like, who would you
bigger
meet?
Than that.
A brush with celebrity greatness.
There's nobody.
That would be bigger than Paul McCartney.
There's no one. So Jay Drew, my guy, I text him, and he says, "Wow, puts my Ricky Fowler story to shame." So I said, "Well, I don't remember you telling me that." And so he was covering the 2019 U.S. Open, which was at Pebble, and he was going to get on a shuttle, I think, from the media area to like the 10th hole, where he said it's a long ways away. And so he goes to get on, and the driver says, "Oh, this is just for players," because, some of them will start at 10 instead at 1. He says, "This is just for players only." And so Fowler gets on, and then they start to go, I think. And Fowler says, "Oh, bring him on." So he gets on, takes the shuttle with Fowler.
Nice.
And he
it's
said,
a good story.
Yeah.
It's not Paul McCartney,
right.
But it's a good story.
Right.
I rode a shuttle with Ricky Fowler versus playing actual golf.
Yeah,
with
and he
Paul
said
McCartney.
Fowler was,
but for a brush with greatness, any PGA
Tour
absolutely.
Pro. I'd take any of them.
And Fowler's not any PGA Tour pro. He's
right. And he said they had a little conversation, not much, but how's it going, blah, 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 whatever. Right. So he said, yeah. I said, I agree. I mean, that's a great story. That's cool. That's great. That's awesome. But this guy playing golf with Paul McCartney, it's an unbelievable story.
That is, yeah. That is unbelievable. You can't believe Paul McCartney's on the twosome in front of you on some random course in Florida. I mean,
there you go. Yeah.
I mean, if you were playing 1 and he was coming off 18, that would be unbelievable. And you're in the group behind. He said, "Oh, come on."
We ought to do that. Bring that story back around here one of these days. Maybe a Friday would be good. Open the phones and see if anybody can come close to that.
Well, he's such a megastar for 60 years. When you were saying he'll be the biggest musician, like Elvis was huge, but not for 60 years. Michael Jackson was huge, and maybe he'd come close, but not there. But he's not, because he died so young again. Right. But he was, by the time he was 5, Michael Jackson was a big, big deal.
Michael Jackson would be in the ballpark, no question about it.
But someone who's been on top for 60 years.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood, maybe? Because I just read he had a birthday in his 90s. But even his film career kind of started late.
I'd go Paul.
I know. I mean, yeah. All right, DJ PK, when we come back, Steven Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Horned Frogs, the spring football tour next. DJ PK, and we're joined now by Steven Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Steven, good morning.
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Good. Hey, before we dive into some specific players here, you're talking to two guys who've been doing this show for almost 25 years. So we were around when Gary Patterson was going to the Fiesta Bowl and winning the Rose Bowl, and TCU, BYU, and Utah had a really good thing going in the Mountain West. They were great. And Sonny Dykes comes in and takes them to the college football championship game his first year. Now, you lose a lot of players. You got to rebuild. We get that. Couple of 9-4 seasons back-to-back here. What is the missing piece that might jump TCU into the conversation with Texas Tech, with Utah and BYU in the elite in the conference? Big picture, they're good. What are they missing that they're not great?
Well, they hope that new offensive coordinator Gordon Samuels ends up being kind of the missing piece. I think Sonny realized Sonny's been an air raid guy most of his career and has had a lot of success with it. But I think if you notice BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, even teams like Iowa State and Kansas State, I feel like those teams, the Big 12 is moving from that air raid, throw it all over the yard 50, 60 times a game to those 5 teams I mentioned are very physical teams on both sides of the ball. Yeah, they still run spread, but a lot of those teams weren't afraid to get under center. I still remember going to that BYU game last year, just how much more physical BYU was than TCU. So they hope this new offense philosophy, which is a little bit more pro-style, a little bit more multiple, will allow them to play a bit more physical. Their run game has struggled the last 2 years. So they got a new OC. Even though they lost Josh Hoover, they think they have a more athletic quarterback in Jaden Craig that can also maybe unlock certain dimensions of the offense. So they're hoping this new offensive scheme and also being in year 3 under Andy Avalos could kind of be what they need to take that next leap into the elite of the Big 12.
Yeah, you speak of Josh Hoover, and he was a mainstay there. And on the way out, it seemed like from a distance, and get your thought on this, that Sonny took some shots at him talking about the turnovers. And I believe he had 42 total turnovers, 79 touchdown passes, 42 turnovers. And that ASU game was in a particular abomination. It seemed like they had that game won, but he kept turning it over. So with that in mind, you spoke of the new quarterback coming in. Is it a case of sour grapes, or is Sonny glad that Hoover's gone?
I think 2 things could be true, maybe 3 things. They certainly wanted to keep him. I know financially they were competitive with Indiana and some of the other teams that wanted him. I think ultimately Josh left because, Kendall Briles left. A lot of his good friends, Eric McAllister, Colton Deary, some other guys also ended up leaving. And he had been here, I think, 4 years. So he had kind of seen everything Fort Worth had to offer. But I do think it was a shot, but I also think Sonny was telling the truth as well. I think turnovers were one of the biggest things. I forget what the stat says, but since Sonny's taken over, if they just win or they're even in the turnover battle, I think they have some crazy record like 26-4, 27-4, something like that. So typically speaking, when TCU doesn't turn the ball over or when they win the turnover battle, they win games. And that, I still think to this day, that's going to be Josh's biggest flaw. But like Signetti says, he's never had a defense as good as he'll probably have as Indiana. He's never had a run game as good as Indiana is likely to have either. So I think there was some truth in the statement, but I'd also think it was some sour grapes as well.
If he had stayed, would he have had the best line ever? Noah McKinney, Witten Van Hoy's returning. They are being talked up. And back to your earlier point about being physical, can they just load up and run behind those guys?
I actually think so, ironically. I really like some of the additions they made. Noah McKinney was obviously a big one. They got Cade Bennett back for an extra year eligibility. Some of those, Ben Taylor Whitfield as well. Ryan Hughes coming off an injury. Another guy that got out of the portal. He was all conference at FIU, was a Jaheim Buchanan. So they're deep, and you're seeing a lot of those highly regarded recruits Sonny landed, in like the 23 class, 24 class. Those O-linemen, Witten Van Hoy, Killian Registi, I think I said his name right, and Wesley Harvey, some other guys, they're finally ready to play now, and TCU is starting to look a little bit different on the offensive line. You're starting to see a little bit more 6'5", 6'6", even 6'7". So the body types are changing. So I do think Josh would have probably had his best O-line if he stayed here.
Don't know a lot about Jaden Craig other than a 3-year starter at Harvard, but the thing that gives me confidence is I believe Sonny could take whatever. whomever, basically, and mold him into a pretty good quarterback. I think we followed him at Cal, and we know what he was about, and he's a real good offensive mind, obviously. So from that perspective, what do you expect from Craig? And tell us about him, what he does well.
I kind of follow that same thinking as you. I think even whether it be Max Duggan, Josh Hoover, Chandler Morris can really stay healthy. The success he had at SMU, even going back to Louisiana Tech, I think Sonny, if he's known as a quarterback whisperer, I think he's earned that reputation just based off the work he's done, really all over the place. So I expect Craig will probably set some career-high numbers. I think one thing that he'll be able to showcase a little bit more than he wasn't able to at Harvard because of depth issues is just his mobility. I don't think his rushing stats are probably just going to jump off the page, but he's more mobile than maybe you might expect. He's a little bit bigger than Josh. I think he has similar arm talent, man. I really do. So I think the mobility, the fact he's going to be in the offense, that Samus really kind of thrives on making the game really, really easy for his quarterbacks. Fagnano at UConn was one of the most efficient passers in college football last year, and that's what they want to do this year. They don't necessarily need or want Craig to have to carry the offense, but I do think this scheme and this ability to kind of get him in space to use his legs will bring out the best of him. He has some NFL draft buzz, so he has NFL upside. I do believe that, and I definitely saw it to watch him go through the spring.
Quarterback depth can always be an issue, and I was looking at some of the guys who played in the version of a spring game. And Jack Dalton, wait a minute. No, we're so old that Andy Dalton's kid is playing college football? That's a shocker. How good is he?
Dawson, I don't think Andy's his dad, but for what I remember. But he was running with the threes, but when he got on the field, he was a 3-star recruit out of the Woodlands near Houston. He flashed some talent, man. He was a guy that really impressed Kendall Browse and Sonny when Browse was here. So I definitely think he closed the spring pretty strong. The second quarterback is going to be Adam Schobel, who's really raw but really talented, 6'4", maybe 6'5", can move, has really good arm talent. He just needs more polish. He played at like 4A or 3A here in Texas, so he's just kind of refining his skills. So TCU has good quarterback depth. Obviously, they hope it won't be tested, but it won't be like some of those other years where if Josh went down, they would be having to turn to, almost a walk-on or a true freshman. So I think TCU's in a good spot when it comes to his quarterback depth.
Receiver-wise, McAllister was a really, really good player, right? I think we all understand that. And when he was available, he was very nice. Now they don't have somebody, I think, that has the original or the stature of name value along those lines. But I'm assured that if it's a Sonny Dykes offense, they've got guys waiting in the wings, and whether it's a Jeremy Scott or a Terry Shelton, maybe it's those guys. Who knows? Could you tell us about what they have as far as receiver goes?
Well, the biggest addition, I guess the return they got was Jordan Dwyer coming back. They picked him up last year from Idaho in the transfer portal. He's the second leading receiver with close to almost 800 yards. So if there's going to be a guy, it's going to be Jordan. Having him back, I just think is huge for just not only his experience. He's a proven guy. Did it at the FCS level, and then he did it at the Power 4 level. So he'll be wide receiver one. I think they're counting on the outside receiver, that second outside spot, either Terry Shelton or Dozie Ezukanma. I think I pronounced it right.
Yeah.
They're betting on one of those two guys to kind of take a leap. And based on the spring, I think they're both capable. I would probably maybe lean more towards Shelton kind of having that starting role. But they might use those two guys to kind of replicate what Eric McAllister did. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if, say, Terry Shelton has like 500 yards and Dozie has 300 or 400. Because I think it's going to take a committee approach to replace Eric. And then finally, they got Ed Small coming back. Ed Small, before his injury, I thought was one of the top freshman slot receivers last year. And so he's another guy they can depend on. They really like their tight end room. So I think it will be a committee approach. I don't know if they'll have the Big 12 leading receiver next year, but there's plenty of talent. They just need some of those younger guys to kind of step up now.
Back to your point about being bigger and more physical, we have seen Utah and BYU both have success with tight ends. But tight ends, that's an all-purpose label. Like, some guys are more run blockers, some guys are receivers and are really glorified slot guys. And some guys really, truly are combo guys. What do they have in the tight ends group for TCU?
Well, all the tight ends now, I think, Gordon Sanders demands that they have to be willing to kind of put their hand in the dirt, and they have to be good inline blockers. Obviously, he wants a receiving threat, a receiver that a tight end that can stretch the field. But it's paramount receiver, tight end, that you have to be a plus in the blocking game. So I think all of the tight ends are having to get a little bit more physical. Kamorion Pimpton is probably the lead guy. Right now, he's 6'6", 6'7". I view him as I think his strengths are going to be in the red zone target, just getting up, going up for those jump balls, but he has a lot of talent, man. They were really banged up, honestly. Another guy I really like is Mason Peterson. He's another guy. I think he might be him and Lafayette Kawhi. I think I said his name right. I think they're more of those, I guess, more modern tight ends. That can really stretch the field. They're faster despite having, so much, despite their physicality and things like that. So they have a versatile tight end room. They're just hoping those guys can get healthy and will be able to go in fall camp.
Reading up on them defensively, said they have some gaps to fill in the secondary at linebacker. And going with linebacker, I know Elam's or Caleb was really good as far as linebacker, and he was just a tackle machine. So how is that position going to be?
It's a big question mark. They do feel good about the development of Max Carroll. He's a Memphis guy just like me. So Max will step into Caleb Elam's Orr's role as kind of like the Mike Backer. Another super talented former 4-star recruit, was an athlete in high school, played every position. So he has like a receiver safety mindset at linebacker, which I think is going to allow him to really thrive against both the pass and the run. So if there's a breakout guy on that TCU defense, I would definitely say it's him. Outside of him, though, that room's going to be a big question mark. They're dependent on – it'll either be one of the handful of redshirt freshmen they have that, weren't ready to play last year, having to step up. They also brought in Mike Short from North Carolina, but he was a reserve at North Carolina. And they also have Michael Thiessen back, who was a transfer from Missouri State. So I would argue that second linebacker spot by Max Carroll, that's probably the biggest question mark on the defense for TCU.
TCU's defense a year ago, 14th in the conference, giving up 245 yards a game through the air. That is not good enough. Have they leaned heavily into the transfer portal to fix that? How is that going to work out?
Well, absolutely. They loaded up at the cornerback position. It was really strange because their safeties were so good last year, but their cornerbacks was kind of like the opposite story. So they do bring back Jamel Johnson, who I think will be preseason All-Big 12, maybe preseason All-American. Tied for the team lead in interceptions last year. I think he's an NFL guy just like Bud Clark was. And another guy, not a transfer, but a true sophomore, Gil Jackson at cornerback. He might have been the top performer in the spring. He looks like a dude. He looks like the type of corner you'll see in the SEC. 6'3", great frame, has that type of confident, bordering on cocky mindset that you want from your defensive back. I think he's another guy that could be a breakout. And they brought in two cornerbacks, Kalen Carroll from Central Michigan and Tion Parks from Colorado. Also bring back Vernon Glover as well. So they would like to think they'll be better on that side of the ball. They struggled, I think, in jump ball situations last year, and they struggled for some reason in third and long. They had one of the better defenses in terms of stop rate on first and second down. So they were really good at forcing those 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, but they also really struggled to get off the field as well. So it was a really strange year watching the secondary last year, considering how good their safeties were.
I know they got a recruit coming in, quarterback, who's they're really high on, and the recruiting you spoke about, that they've been doing it. And I think that is reflective, and you can answer this much better than I could, in the reason why they gave Sonny an extension in April. Is that accurate?
I think so. I think Sonny, the recruiting as well, I think the fact he was able to kind of stabilize the ship, if you will, the last 2 years, I think that was big. If you're Mike Buddy, you're coming in. For the most part, TCU's athletic department is in a really strong place. And, at AD, you're defined by the hires and decisions you make. So I don't think Buddy wanted to really come in and make a major decision if he didn't have to. And the way Sonny, I think, closed the year last year and in 2024 was the right sign that, as he said after that bowl win over USC, TCU is a good football program. Now they're trying to figure out how to take that last step. It starts with recruiting. You're seeing that, I think, finally in the trenches more than anything, both on the defensive line and offensive line. the body types are changing, the physicality is changing. Now they just have to go and execute on the field and figure out, can they take that next step, especially with Sorsby. In my mind, Sorsby shouldn't be playing this year for Texas Tech, but that's another story.
Yeah. I think you'll be right.
Stephen, we appreciate the time and the info. Thanks for joining once again. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Sonny Dykes, 4 years there, 36-17. And you like to throw out the bowl games and the non-conference and tell me how you stack up in the conference. And he is right now 23-13 in his 4 years. So
I'm a Sonny fan. He was very media accessible. Every time we talked to him, it was easy to talk to the guy.
Yep.
And he came on our show. We'd call him up. He'd be willing to come on. And then, of course, the media days, and we'll see him here. Now it's next month since we are into June already. Made my reservations the other day for Big 12 media days, the 8th and 9th of July, whatever that Tuesday, Wednesday is. And so we'll have all the coverage as we usually do. But, yeah, he's good, and he got that one big season. There's no question about it. I think they have the ability to not really be a surprise team, but be in the thick of things. I think they're in that group. I've got 3 teams in the top, and then I've got about 5 or 6 teams in that middle. And they're in there.
The middle.
And could be at the move up. I got 5 or 6 teams in that middle, maybe only 5, that could find their way to play in the title game. I've got the 2 locals and Texas Tech. And then I got a bunch of others that have the chance to be really good. And I think he could be one of those, or they could be one of those.
They didn't beat BYU last year. They couldn't beat ASU. Iowa State got them, but Iowa State's in a different place. You can move them down in the order with the coaching change and the roster getting gutted. They didn't have to play Tech last year. That has been set up for ESPN Thanksgiving night. They're expecting something. They've already put that thing in on Thanksgiving night.
Thanksgiving night game?
TCU at Texas Tech, Thursday, November 26th, ESPN, 6 o'clock. They're not putting 2 teams there because they think they're going to be 4-7. That's not
sweet.
That's not what they're expecting there.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game.
Tech plays Thursday, Utah plays Friday, and then BYU's got a Saturday game. Spread it out over the holiday weekend.
Yeah, great. That's just what a great time. I feel sorry for you if you're not a football fan.
On Thanksgiving weekend?
Yes.
It's such a glorious.
I mean, it's turkey football.
It was always 4 days of football, and now it's going to be 5. Hard to believe there was a time when there were only 2 Thanksgiving games, and now there's 3. And now they're adding in the Wednesday night NFL game.
What's the NFL game that night? Do you know?
I should know it's out. I'd have to search, so I don't know off the top of my head. I mean,
I think the Lions and Cowboys are playing.
Wow, what breaking news there.
Not each other.
Green Bay Packers at the LA Rams.
Oh,
that's a good game that just got better with that trade yesterday.
Actually, check that. I screwed up. That's the Thanksgiving Eve game, excuse me.
That's good.
Chiefs. Is it?
It's Chiefs at Bills.
Chiefs-Bills.
Oh, that's outstanding, too.
So Allen versus Mahomes.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, they load them up.
I'm going to get loaded up on turkey and football.
Packers-Rams Wednesday.
That's awesome.
Chiefs-Bills Thursday after the traditional games.
Usually on the Wednesday before, traditionally, I had gone disco dancing because I get my wife a cocktail dress that I give her before Christmas. But I may have to stay home that night.
Trying to get all the hits in, huh?
Wrap them all up in one and throw it at the same time.
Put a bow on it, as Yock likes to say.
Well, and that's what I do now.
Not yet.
I do put a bow on it because I go through Amazon now to get the cocktail dress because Kmart is closed.
Amazon has Denver at Pittsburgh on Friday, just to tie that all together.
Denver at Pittsburgh. Yeah, well, we'll be getting down to the end of Aaron Rodgers at that point.
That'll be tough to, yes, but we're gonna have the Ute game that day too. So I'll have local college football.
They play West Virginia.
Yes,
7:00.
Oh, is it 7? Oh, well, then we got time. The NFL game's at 1. So,
so the
you got a whole day
at
of college
home,
football.
7:00 Friday after Thanksgiving.
Correct. And then BYU.
That could be chilly.
Yeah, it could be.
That's three Thanksgiving Fridays in a row for them.
I think that's kind
of. At least they're home this time.
I don't follow that's just Saturday part 1. that Friday after.
I was going to say that weekend.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whether they play Friday or doesn't really matter. And that's everybody considers that holiday weekend. That's the biggest holiday weekend we have every year. Because there's a bunch of holidays that aren't always on a weekend. It just depends on how the calendar falls. But obviously for Thanksgiving, it's always Thursday. And, yeah, you just lock it down.
Yeah. The NFL has set up a bunch of marquee games for you that week. While you were talking, I called. Jeez, man, these guys, they don't miss a beat. Fox gets a doubleheader. They get Seattle and San Francisco. You know,
They shouldn't miss a beat because it's entertainment.
New England and L.A., the Chargers, Sunday night in prime time.
Yeah, the only thing is that one of the stations plays The Godfather nonstop, so I'll have to just get out of that for a little bit.
But you can get right back into it. I mean, you literally pick it up with the inner dialogue. You're kind of like, you're right there.
I know, but I feel like, like a traitor to the faith of not watching it completely.
Well, you can bail out when they get to Godfather 3. You don't really like that one. It's just the
I
first
don't even
two.
know they show that one.
I think they do.
Oh.
But as you see, you're off to the football game then.
Right,
You can't be bothered with that.
No.
It's about the two, and, when De Niro's running along the rooftop, breaking up the gun, throwing it down different chimneys, you're there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I've done that myself.
Nice one. Everything you missed in this show, when we come back, stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoq.
Look, private equity doesn't like to add costs. They like to limit costs because they have a bottom line that they have to hit. I just hate when you've got somebody who has been working in the marketing department forever or who's been a sports information director forever, and they're doing their job and they're busting their butt and they're trying to tell good stories, and those are the guys that are going to get affected.
And to me, it's just a direct response to BYU having all the money they need at their disposal, a built-in way to fund the program. There's nothing about this deal that screams win to me. I don't like the feeling of it. Matt Hayes summed it up best at the end of his article. He said, this is the same Utah athletic department that wanted so badly to push out football coach Kyle Whittingham at the end of a 10-win season, but was willing to pay him $13.5 million over the next 2 years to do so.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it is time to get you up to speed on everything you missed. Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Big trades in the NBA. People loading up. The Patriots in the NFL. The Patriots get AJ Brown from Philadelphia. Give up a 2028 first-round pick, a fifth-round pick in 2027.
Well, that's good on the heels of the Jazz getting AJ Dybantsa.
Myles Garrett from Cleveland to the Rams for Jared Verse and 3 NFL draft picks spread out over the next 3 years. First round, second round, third round, 27, 28, 29. So the Rams, who are already in the NFC Conference Final, brought in 2 corners and a big-time defensive lineman.
Well,
bolster that D.
The age of Stafford dictates now.
Yep. Got to go for it. This
Not
is
tomorrow,
it.
now.
Go for it. And you're so close.
Oh, yeah.
But Seattle, I saw a stat that Seattle averaged over 6 yards per play against them the 2 times they beat them. Yeah, so that's not good. So bolster the D. 2 corners and a guy who's both a big-time pass rusher, but he's also very good against the run. You don't always get both those things in the same guy, but the Rams get Garrett. But the Rams were rumored to be in the A.J. Brown sweepstakes, and they were rumored to back off. Well, yeah, because they were lining up this deal with the Browns. Decided we're going to take these draft picks and use them over here instead of over there. So now it's all clear.
Take these draft picks and shove the A.J. Brown deal. Like, take this job.
Broncos, Patriots, Bills, would those be your AFC favorites? You got anyone on a, you don't have to rank them, but just like top tier teams?
I still put the Ravens in there.
Okay. Yeah, I got them a tier below. Playoff team, but I don't see them as a Super Bowl team. But new coach, new ideas. See if we can mix it up and make something happen.
But if you are a playoff team,
by definition, you're not that far away.
The Cardinals got to the Super Bowl.
That they did. Raymond Berry passed away at the age of 93. Caught touchdown passes from Johnny Unitas over 13 seasons in the NFL. Also, Coach of the NFL and led the Patriots to the Super Bowl, where they got destroyed by the Chicago Bears. But he got them there. Hall of Famer. And the NBA loses longtime coach Rick Adelman. A couple of big names in sports there. Adelman was 79. Barry was 93.
Adelman in the Hall of Fame, too. Had an opportunity to interact with him over an extended period of time, several times. Not that he knew me, but I'm just saying I had an opportunity to interview him on a one-on-one basis. And I just appreciated his professionalism. He knew I had a job to do, and I had to ask questions, and he liked talking basketball. And then I interviewed him when I was working in California. And then you come up here, and you see he's a peer of Jerry Sloan, and they're very similar in the way they sold the game and made themselves available to answer questions. And I respected that.
A lot of parallels there. They played in the same era, coached to the same era.
Yeah.
Both moved around, although Adelman more than Sloan. But Sloan was with the Bulls, too. So.
And was a professional and was there to coach basketball. Yeah. Not to be a celebrity, not to create a bunch of hoopla around him.
Nope, his lifer.
And just was there to coach basketball. That was his job. I appreciate that.
Took the Blazers to 2 NBA Finals. The Kings had their best run with him running the show, 8 winning seasons. And went to Houston and had a 22-game win streak.
Should have taken the Kings, but I think the Lakers had 27 free throws in the fourth quarter one time.
Ouch.
27, I think it was.
Shaq and Kobe got some calls.
And Phil.
The Kings did not.
In the fourth quarter. Not in the game. I'm not talking about a game. I'm talking about a quarter. That was a little bit questionable.
We talked basketball with Steve Cleveland. He acknowledges the Knicks are underdogs, but he wants them to get it done.
I probably do, too, going back to my childhood.
Yeah. Spurs already have 5 titles. And Wemby will get his at some point. But this is the Knicks moment.
Yeah.
If not now, when?
I was in the stands, in the Garden in 73. Not the clincher, but I went to a game in that series as a youngster. And I think we all understand. You don't have to live back there to understand how big New York Knicks
The only thing that surprised me is that when Geltz came on, and I did not know this, but I mean, obviously you guys, lived in the tri-state area, and I haven't. I would have thought the Yankees were bigger than the Knicks, but
well,
he
I
said
think
the Knicks
now,
just because the Yankees are in May, and June now, but because it's too early in the season, or because the Knicks are on a heater right now.
I think it's a combination in that the Yankees are in the playoffs virtually every year, and it's been a bit, but they've won several World Series, and they were so dominant in the Joe Torre era, obviously. And the Knicks, for a long time, not only weren't a contender, they sucked, and they were trying to make moves, running through coaches, and Knick basketball is huge, just huge. And it's at a time where in the summer, the Yankees, if they're in a World Series, it's gigantic, obviously, but they still have to share the stage a little bit with the NFL. Now, the Jets and Giants both have been horrible. I think the Giants are going to have a rebound here a little bit. I don't know about the Jets.
No, but the Giants are doing some things that you've seen done before, and you've seen them pay off.
Yeah.
The organization's kind of been all over the place. Harbaugh's a proven winner with a strong personality. He can come in and just bring a certain amount of professionalism.
And I think that's important.
Yes, and it's what his brother did with the parallels with the Chargers are pretty obvious, but I think the parallels with the Broncos, same type of deal. Peyton's a strong personality, comes in.
I think people get caught up in the moment because when the Giants with Bill Parcells and Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms, there was nothing bigger then. And Parcells was a local guy. And his personality was overwhelming, dominant, and people were attracted to him.
And it's the NFL. It's a heck of a stage to build off of.
Right. And so I think at that time, I think it can fluctuate a little bit.
And I get that. And I get that the Giants, Knicks, Yankees are the 3 most important teams. But in the general order, I thought, based on the fact that the Yankees just win so much, I would have thought they were, of the big dogs, the biggest dogs. And I get based on time of year and based on
maybe
who's
if all
winning.
things are equal,
Right.
yes.
And things are not always equal. I get that. I was just surprised by what he...
Yeah, and with Aaron Judge, they have a big-time personality.
Sure.
But back in the Torrey days, they had several big-time personalities.
The Yankees have just done a better job of staying in the spotlight consistently versus the Knicks and the Giants, who have really had problems. And the Yankees haven't been great, but they haven't been out there going 72-90.
No.
Which is what essentially the Giants have done and what the Knicks have done.
Yeah.
The Knicks have had their 36-win seasons or whatever.
And the Knicks actually play in New York.
Yeah. They're literally in Manhattan. I mean, even the Yankee Stadium, you get on the train and
Bronx,
get up there.
Up a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
The Yankees, I may push back a little bit if you had all things being equal.
You push back on me or on Geltzeiler?
Geltzeiler.
Okay.
Because I think that the Yankees, they're right there with any franchise in any sport.
Right. Yeah. I get it.
I hear about these soccer teams and all, and I think the Yankees can compete at that level. Like Whittingham grew up a Yankee fan, of all things. He's from California and lived in Utah. And you gravitated to the Yankees? What's wrong with you?
Front runner.
You front runner, yeah.
Front
big
runner.
time. And then he goes to Michigan. My gosh, take a tough job. Let's see what you can do there, buddy boy.
He did. He took Utah.
Well, I took Utah, and they were 14-0.
But everybody left. They were 12-0, and everybody left.
Right, but if they would have had a playoff, they would have been 14-0.
Nice save. Good save. Well done. Stanley Cup Final starts tonight. Vegas and Carolina. You have a little more interest in it just because Vegas knocked out the Mammoth?
Oh, for sure.
Like, how good a team did the Mammoth lose to? Did they lose to the champs? Because really the question is, how close is the Mammoth?
Well, I think actually I was rooting for Vegas to win because I had a reference point to get them to get to this point, and they've gotten to this point. And then you can see it's not necessarily a complete and total linear straight line. Well, we did this against them, and we were better. I mean, who's to say if you would have played Anaheim that you would have beat them? You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Or Colorado that you would have beat them. You can't really say that, but it is a measuring stick, and where the Mammoth are right now, they still have a little bit of a barometer. 2-3 years from now, we got to get past that, but right now, we're not there yet.
Yeah. I don't know that they would have done what Vegas did going forward, and yet I see how Vegas has handled other teams, and I think, man, actually the Mammoth acquitted themselves pretty well.
There's no question they did. But you can argue, well, I mean, at that point, they were still barely getting started with Tortorella and bringing Hart in, established as the goaltender and all that stuff. And so if they would have played the Mammoth in the third round instead of the first, you can argue, well, they would have handled them much easier. Who knows? I mean, it's just open for debate, and maybe it took a little longer. And the point being, Vegas is where they want to be, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
An amazing group of people. One of the greatest luck strokes of my life was being able to live in Utah. I hope I live in Utah many, many more years. I am not tired of living in Utah, nor will I ever be.
When we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us. I've lived in Utah too long. I don't know what to tell you. All right, your feedback. What do you think? What's going on? Question of the day. Chet Holmgren stunk it up in the Western Conference Finals. Was the number 2 pick. Just saying, any concern the number 2 in this month's draft might not be good? Well, yeah. But that was long before Chet Holmgren had his Western Conference Finals, which wasn't nearly as good as the 2 previous rounds. And we went through the last 25 years, PK, and the number 2 pick, I would say there were 5 pretty good players in there. And I would put Holmgren on that list as one of the top 5 number 2 picks.
Harper shows promise. I think even Schar shows promise. Brandon Miller shows promise.
I was going to give those 3 a pass. It's so early to try to judge them.
Right, that's why I said shows promise.
Right. But it's actually, Holmgren's a good player. Now, not good enough on the biggest stage.
Yeah, but you're big on the money, and he's due for this big thing.
No,
is that going to actually hamper them?
That'll be if they give him $50 million. Yes. If they move him because they got to pay a lot of people, and there is speculation about them moving him, then no, it won't hamper them. It'll depend on who they get back for him.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fresh in our minds. He's damaged goods now.
I get it. We went through the whole list. LaMarcus Aldridge is a good player. Kevin Durant is the best number 2 pick. And you can throw in Chet Holmgren, and then you can pick a couple other players who were nice players, decent, but it's hard to get to 5 really. I mean, Brandon Ingram, he hasn't won anything. He's a pretty good player.
He's okay.
Yeah. So he'd be 4 probably.
But I want more.
I get it. Jabari Parker had major injuries.
Undercut.
Lonzo Ball has had injuries, and Hasheem Thabeet washed out. Michael Beasley bouncing all over the place. Marvin Williams, big disappointment. Emeka Okafor, big disappointment. A lot of injuries. Darko Milicic, maybe one of the worst busts there was.
D'Angelo Russell, okay.
I know. Yeah, it's just super disappointing. You just
Derek Williams.
You don't have enough all-star games. You don't have enough conference finals, NBA championships in this group. When you think you're picking 2, all the players are on the board for all these teams to choose from.
I know.
The Lakers drafted 2 3 years in a row and came up with D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball. Not really transformative. 3 number 2 picks in a row. I mean, at least the Spurs look like they hit on their guys at 1, 2, and 4. It's outrageous they got 3 picks that high in 4 years, but the Lakers drafted number 2 3 years in a row. Oof.
Yeah. And that's why they're going out in the first round.
Yeah. True story. So, yes, long before Holmgren, well aware of the perils of number 2. It's funny, you go through all the number 3 picks. The number 3 picks are actually better.
With the limitations on acquisitions and trades and whatnot, the draft has become the utmost importance.
Yeah. Number 3 picks include Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. That's 3 years in a row. Embiid was a 3. James Harden was a 3. If you go back far enough, Carmelo Anthony was a 3. Pau Gasol was a 3. If you go back far enough, Michael Jordan was a 3. So, yeah, a lot more results out of draft than 3rd. But that just comes down to at number 2, well, then just pick the right player.
Right.
There he was. He was right there. And we did talk about really having the courage of your convictions. These guys who go 7, 10, 14, whatever, they're all on the board too. But there's this whole conventional thought about, well, this must be the best player. You have to take him. And then you do, and doesn't translate at all.
Well, you need to, it's like recruiting rankings. You need to see something irrespective of the dumb star system.
And VJ Edgecombe, the most recent 3, only a rookie, so let's not pronounce anything, but wow, great rookie year. Well done.
Yeah, he's a player.
Let's see. Who else had stuff to say here? Maybe Wemby makes other players look bad. Well, he did. He made Holmgren look bad.
Okay, sure, but that's the concern for the Jazz because you're going to go up against Big Vic.
That is exactly a concern. That's an excellent point. And the thing is, I get Wemby's defense, and you're going to miss shots, and he's going to block me, he's going to change shots, and he's getting your head. But you can't have 4 rebounds. Like, no. You have a bad shooting game, A, it happens, and B, Wemby can make it happen. But you had 4 rebounds, and there were 10 people out there who had 5, 6, 7 boards. Everybody was rebounding. Go get some.
And to me, and the stats are ugly, but the timid nature in which he played.
Yeah, I get it.
The appearance.
Well, I think
was
the
not
stats and the body language absolutely correlated and showed the story.
He just looked passive,
right?
Afraid.
And that's the point. If he hadn't been passive, if he'd been aggressive, he would have had more than 4 boards. Wemby might have still blocked his shots and changed his shots, but he would have more than 4 boards.
6 charges. Foul out of the game.
Do something. Sean, I think people are judging Chet unfairly. Had an excellent year, was an all-star, and just happened to play poorly in the conference finals. It didn't erase everything he's accomplished prior. That, Sean, is much nicer than what Chet had to say about himself. Basically, Chet went Godfather on himself. I have to answer for this. I have to get better. There's no sugarcoating it. I thought his general assessment and demeanor was like good. That when I hear someone say that, I think, oh, well, I got to watch him now because a year from now, 2 years from now, it might be a totally different performance.
Very well
of
could
him.
be. I'm not going to bury him for the rest of his career. He's 24 years old.
Especially because of what he said.
Yeah.
If he had deflected and he hadn't owned it, and I just paraphrased, but basically I thought he owned it.
No, I understand what you're saying. He didn't say this isn't going to ruin my summer.
Yeah, and then
every
like,
freaking summer got ruined because you said it wasn't going to ruin your summer.
Yes.
How about you said it is going to ruin your summer? Right. Maybe there would have been one time, just one time, your summer wasn't ruined.
Ronnie, you really think Peterson's not going to be good? I hate to be the GM that passes on that kid.
I don't think that he's not going to be good. I'm concerned, is he going to be productive?
Is he
if
he's
sitting
available?
over there, he's not productive.
Is he going to be available? Well, I think that actually GMs think what Ronnie said. Ronnie, I think you're on the spot
Is that
there.
Cycli?
But no, Lind. But I also think the GMs think, I'd hate to be the GM that takes him and then he doesn't play.
Well, of course.
I think they stress about both these things.
Or they get hurt.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. Because they all know that this is a golden opportunity to set your franchise up with a very good player.
Rick, yeah, DP's a huge risk. 3 exclamation points. Right, but it could be a huge payoff. Scott says, Chet didn't have Jalen Williams, so he became the number 2 scoring option. He didn't work on strength training like Wemby. I'd still love to have Chet on my team as a center over Kessler.
Ooh.
Whoa, no.
I don't even really think of him as a center.
He's not a center. He's a power forward at best.
I need a rim protector whose primary job is protect the paint, protect the rim, protect my guys, and board.
Chet's a help side defender. He's not a primary.
Right, and he's good at that. I'll give him that. No problem.
He is.
But I want a primary guy anchor.
Hartenstein had to be the guy to match up with Wemby. His physicality bothered Wemby. Didn't stop him.
He's a much bigger dude.
He is a much bigger dude. Chet doesn't have the body to go out there and body up Wemby, and that's why they didn't ask him to do it.
No, you can't just go on height. I mean, Durant is not a center.
No.
He's not even really a power forward in that manner. That's not. I know he's tall, but so what?
If Chet's going to play center, he's going to need some more beef.
And I think he's got the Britton Johnson thing on him. He's going to be skinny the rest of his life.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's his body chemistry.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. All right. That is interesting about Jalen Williams would have scored and you wouldn't have noticed it as much.
And Mitchell was a rotational player and he wasn't in there either. So who knows?
Well, whoever was going to lose that series was going to say, if we'd had our guys, we could have won. Because the Spurs lost games early when they were shorthanded. And that is just going to lead to more teams resting guys during the regular season trying to be healthy for the playoffs.
Great.
I know. Thank you.
Way to end it on a downer, TV boy.
Scotty G will change the mood next. Right here on The Zone.